Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka TheIndianJesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am ready to party. If you lived under a rock, let me be the first to break it to you. We are at war. We are at war through Israel. So I'm sure you knew that. So let's just dive right into the show. Dave Smith and Konstantin Kissin, who've been kind of, orbiting each other, and they've needed a debate. It started up with the woke right stuff, but this fits the bill for sure. Let's dive right in. As always, guys, if you cannot hear me or the video, please let me know as soon as possible.
Wars are often both launched and ended on the strength of popular support or opposition. When the stakes are so high, the consequences are so significant, everybody gets a say. In my view, that applies even if you haven't been to the place where it's happening. Much of the debate about the Iran crisis and others seems to boil down to some big themes: morality versus reality, idealism or pragmatism, intervention versus isolation, populists or lobbyists. For a big picture debate on a world at war, I'm joined by two of our favourite uncensored contributors who often trade respectful barbs on these matters and more. Konstantin Kissin is an author, satirist, and co-host of Trigonometry. Dave Smith is a libertarian commentator, a comedian, and the host of Part of the Problem. Well, welcome to both of you. Dave, great to have you back so soon. As you know, after your last appearance, I got chewed up and spat across cyberspace, which I found quite an amusing thing to watch go down. What did you make of it?
Oh, I thought it was just so pathetic.
Yeah.
I mean, I had mentioned this before, but if you, as I'm sure you do recall, but after my friend Darryl Cooper was on Tucker Carlson's show, and he made some comments that you objected to, and I was defending him and giving my point of view on it. You had me on a panel. It's probably the most contentious that me and you have been on the show.
Shout out to the mighty Sarlacc. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Very good to see ya.
You had me on 3-on-1 with it was Seth Dillon, and then a world-renowned historian from the House of Lords, like the leading expert.
He actually is, Andrew Roberts, yeah.
Yeah, and I took my lumps. I tried to make my argument as compelling as I could. It was I didn't go online and just throw a bitch fest for the next week over how unfair it was. It's just pathetic. And I'm sorry, but Natasha was just lying through her teeth the whole time. And she was, and lies that, as you pointed out, insult the intelligence of the host and the viewers. And I thought you were absolutely right to give her pushback for that. So it was, I thought, number one, I thought you were right on the show. Obviously, admittedly, I'm a little bit biased on the topic, but I thought the reaction online was just truly embarrassing.
You know what was interesting? If they'd actually just said to me, you know what, Piers, did you go a little bit too far in the interrupting? Could you have reined back 10, 20%? I probably would have said yes, probably. I conceded.
You live and you learn, right?
That to some friends of mine. Yeah, probably slightly overdid it. My mother's always a good litmus test. She was like, you did go at her a bit. I was like, okay. But then I was reminded that she was telling massive whoppers with real consequential elements to them, denying, appalling things like the killing of the 9 out of 10 children in that one airstrike and so on, or at least trying to cast doubt over whether it had been proven, which I just found so reprehensible. But also, I just felt this is somebody who purports to be an international barrister in this area, who's clearly has got a horse in the race, right? Because it's
an expert, you might say.
It's Lawyers for Israel, who she represents. If you can't handle a bit of interrupting from someone like me, you're probably in the wrong profession, is what I thought. It's like, it's supposed to be part of your job, literally arguing with people, often in an animated way. Anyway, let's get into this argument, because this was precipitated, for those who don't follow you guys as assiduously as I do, and I'm a big fan of both of you. Konstantin, you called out Dave on X for accusing the actor Rob Schneider of talking with confidence on topics he doesn't necessarily understand. You said that's exactly what Douglas Murray had accused Dave of doing when they had a spat on Joe Rogan. And you said on X, I'm not trying to be a dick, but this is exactly what Douglas was saying to you. He was saying you talk about things you don't understand with a level of confidence that is inappropriate, and you pretended he was calling for censorship. You can't have it both ways. Okay, you've got Dave sitting here. You don't want to be a dick, which I appreciate, because I've had a festival of that from George Galloway this week.
Phrasing, Piers, phrasing. You had a bit of dick from George Galloway, did you?
You don't want to be a dick, which I appreciate, because I've had a festival of that from George Galloway this week. So let's not get into dick measurement contests. But this whole argument really about people who are supposedly ill-equipped to talk about things, whether it's Dave because he's a comedian by stock in trade, whether it's Rob Schneider, whether it's anyone really. Explain where you come from on that.
Well, first of all, you say it's been precipitated by this. I think the disagreements between Dave and I run about as long as the Iran-Israel conflict, so and probably longer. So we disagree on a lot of stuff.
Shout out to DJ Isolated. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party, sir. Very good to see ya. We are just diving into this, talking Israel and Iran, but a little bit of have you been before we get there. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Long as the Iran-Israel conflict, so and probably longer. So we disagree on a lot of stuff. You've invited me on your show many, many times over the last year. I've always said no when talking about this stuff because I don't consider myself an expert on these issues, which is why I've consistently turned it down. The only reason I'm here tonight, by the way, is you said to me, I'm not going on your show until you come back on mine. And I thought that was actually fair enough. So particularly given that you have me here with somebody who's also not an expert, this is essentially two guys in a bar, in a pub, chatting about their opinions. So that's fine.
Fair enough.
However, I think the reality is that an issue of this complexity and seriousness should not be addressed by a former comedian and a current comedian. I don't really think that's the right approach. But my point to Dave is something else. My point to Dave is whenever he wants to take a shortcut and disagree with someone who's saying something that's different to him, he will resort to exactly the same thing that Douglas said to him, which is, you actually don't really know what you're talking about. You don't have the expertise to talk about this.
Okay, but does he say that in circumstances where the person has demonstrated that they don't have the expertise to talk about it? Because that would be different. Shout out to CT223 in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So if you know,
you haven't been to the region, you haven't read enough, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. And that's exactly what Douglas was saying to Dave. Now, you can agree or disagree with whether that's right or wrong, but the fact that Dave is violating his own standards seems to me to be pretty hypocritical.
Dave, you're a rank hypocrite.
all right, check. Are we good? Shout out to Ayush Gupta in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Oh yeah, the war drums are definitely beating and a blazing. You just said I might have to sample when you say my name and throw it into a mix of a song. There we go. DJ Isolated. There we go. Okay, word up. Thank you. And I think, it was something like that. Shout out to Giggling Spy. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Very good to see you guys. And yes, finally, the first part of my debate with Andrew Wilson has been released. We'll check out a little bit of it after the show. I'm going to do a little segment so I can cut it and post it up. But stick around for that. Welcome to the party, guys. Here we are with Konstantin, Kissin, and Dave Smith. A little bit of woke right stuff before we dive into Israel and Iran.
That's what I'm saying to Dave. Now, you can agree or disagree on talking about. You don't have to and disagree with someone who's saying something that's different to him. He will resort to exactly the same thing that Douglas said to him, which is, you actually don't really know what you're talking about. You don't have.
And that's why when I froze, I was basically just saying, okay, but Konstantin, does he say that in situations where somebody has demonstrated that they don't have the expertise to know what they're talking about?
Have the expertise to talk about this. You haven't been to the region. You haven't read enough. You haven't done this. You haven't done that. And that's exactly what Douglas was saying to Dave. Now, you can agree or disagree with whether that's right or wrong, but the fact that Dave is violating his own standards, it seems to me to be pretty hypocritical.
So if you have a standard that someone is bad at a thing, then it must mean that all people are bad at all things all of the time.
What?
Talk about a straw man.
Dave, you're a rank hypocrite.
That's what Piers saying it, not me. I did not add the word rank.
Yeah, you would have done
okay,
if he thought about it.
No, I'm sorry. There's for the record, I just want to say me and Rob Schneider made up. I've always been a big fan of his. We message back and forth, and we're cool. But no, I'm sorry. Obviously, this is ridiculous, and there's no hypocrisy here at all. It is if we were to come to a debate, and what I brought to the debate was I just said, "Shut up." And that was all I did for the debate, was just tell you to shut up. And I had no argument, and I didn't counter any of your arguments, but I just told you to shut up. And you were to say, man, that was a really ridiculous way to debate. And then I pointed out that you had also told someone to shut up once in your life. That wouldn't mean you're guilty of hypocrisy. It's a completely different standard to be dismissive to someone on Twitter than to agree to debate them on the biggest show in the world, show up in front of tens of millions of people, and your argument essentially is just to dismiss them. Your point doesn't matter. So no, and also, clearly, I wasn't telling Rob Schneider because he's a comedian, he can't have an opinion on this. I was telling him that I don't really think he knows what he's talking about on this issue. And then
Which is exactly what Douglas...
Well, there you go. There you go. So he went into the conversation, and then through the conversation, it was demonstrated to Dave, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Whereas Douglas Murray just went in and decided that Dave doesn't know what he's talking about, and very clearly not very familiar with his content and just the style of not being an expert, not having been, but still saying things, I guess. Not the same.
Telling him
thing.
that I don't really think he knows what he's talking about on this issue. And then
Which is exactly what Douglas said to you.
Yes, but he didn't back it up with anything. That's the point.
And by the way,
Konstantin, no one would have had a problem. The whole point was that Douglas...
Guys, don't forget, we are also live always on X and Rumble, where free speech is a little bit better. I love having you guys here where we can pull up the chats, but if you got to leave a secret message, head on over to one of those. And we also have the Discord community, which is also completely free speech.
Anything. That's the point.
And by the way,
Konstantin, no one would have had a problem. The whole point was that Douglas had an opportunity to demonstrate his superior level of expertise and did not. And this is the overwhelming opinion.
Well, I don't think that's quite true. I think on a lot...
Nope, that is indeed quite true.
Of the subjects you debated, he actually did give very good reasons why he disagreed. Now, as you remember, I wrote an article at the time talking about that situation. I did concede that I thought Douglas should have lent more into the arguments. The way you and I have always debated has been on that basis, right? And I think that is true. But I don't think this argument about Twitter really works, because when you go on our mutual friend Joe Rogan's show, you're in front of millions of people. When you and I are exchanging, or you and Rob are exchanging arguments on X, we're also in front of millions of people. We're also having a debate. I don't...
Okay, but having a Twitter account is not the same thing as accepting a debate. Just because I'm on Twitter doesn't mean that I've accepted and I owe you a debate. This is exactly what EB3, whatever the fuck, demanding that I debate him, and if not, then I'm scared. It's like, maybe I just don't have any interest in doing that. Now, if I said yes, I will debate you, and then I show up and be like, no, I don't really feel like debating you, then you could say, oh, you're scared, or this, that, or the other. But I don't owe you a debate just because you have a Twitter account and I have a Twitter account. That's not how this works.
Or you and Rob are exchanging arguments on X. We're also in front of millions of people. We're also having a debate. I don't understand what the difference is.
Clearly you don't. So if you say no once to one situation, it means no to all situations. And if you debate in front of millions of people in one situation, then you have to debate people anytime millions of people exist.
What?
That's not how it works. CT said the same argument came up in Tucker versus Ted Cruz. This is a common trend we see. The people have stopped believing the BS argument. We can all Google history and ChatGPT history, and yeah, this expertise is not as elite as it once was. There was a time when the elites were actually elite compared to everybody else, but now there's people sprinkled in all through the spectrum. Just because a college didn't say, oh, you're an expert, doesn't mean anything.
Changing arguments on X. We're also in front of millions of people. We're also having a debate. I don't understand what the difference is.
You don't understand the difference between like dismissing someone on Twitter and agreeing to debate them and showing up with
Rob
nothing but
made a series
them?
of arguments on Twitter to you in front of...
Right. So where is it that Dave agreed to debate that person? Oh, it didn't happen. So it's a different thing entirely. I think Konstantin is just I think it's Konstantin either way. But he is the mildly, but on the woke right, or at least he supports the woke right. And because that scrambles your brains. Yeah, pretty much.
Debate them and showing up with
Rob
nothing but
made a series
them?
of arguments on Twitter to you in front of those same millions of people that saw you on Joe Rogan, and instead of addressing his arguments with counter arguments, which is the standard that you normally apply and you demand that other people apply to you, you instead basically said, shut up, Rob, you don't know what you're talking about. Just because you read one book doesn't mean you know what you're talking about.
True.
Which is exactly what a lot of people said to you, and you got very upset about it.
But just because you read a book doesn't mean you know everything. But having read a book doesn't mean that you don't know anything. You understand that, right, Konstantin?
And pretended they were trying to censor you.
No, okay. There's
Shout out to Ted Cruz. Oh, Ted Cruz. Oh, man. Every Christian in the world should be just revolting against Ted Cruz for saying, no, the Bible says we have to protect Bibi Netanyahu.
There's a couple different things here. Number one, Pierce, as I told you, I believe, were my first appearance after the Douglas Murray debate on Joe Rogan. And the first thing I said to you was that I go, look, there's been a lot of people who have been challenged to debates who say, I'm not going to debate that guy. He's beneath me. I've done that with other people. And then there's been people who accept and show up to the debate. I said,
I've done that. I don't even have 5,000 subs on this shit, and I've done that.
Douglas Murray's fatal flaw was that he did both. He accepted and then showed up and said, I'm above you. I shouldn't even be debating you. And it backfired on him. Now,
yeah, Tucker, I mean, good job, Tucker. What else could we say about that?
As far as your I'm sorry, what was your second point there? I had another response to that. What was the other thing you said, Konstantin?
I don't remember the sequence of the points that I made. What do you mean exactly?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna
Convenient.
gonna save you both, because I think we've probably dealt with the element about whether you should be debating or talking about these things. You're both here to talk about stuff. Konstantin, let me start with what you said. Donald Trump, you believe, has played an absolute blinder in the Middle East. Dave, to put it mildly, does not agree and thinks he should now be impeached for betrayal. So first of all, Konstantin, why, in your estimation, has Trump played an absolute blinder?
Just to put this in context, I said this, I think, on Friday.
So if you missed this, then I'll put the link in the chat. But live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We covered that in full. The first 10 minutes, my mic wasn't working, but the video was working. But I didn't really have much to say in the very beginning. So yeah, go check that out after this stream.
Why, in your estimation, has Trump played an absolute blinder?
Just to put this in context, I said this, I think, on Friday. I spent that week when these initial strikes happened in Washington, D.C. And the point that I was making is, I don't think certainly none of the people I met in Washington, D.C. with any insider knowledge thought that Benjamin Netanyahu had ordered these strikes without at least a wink and a nod from President Trump. So President Trump is doing something that from what I remember, he said it between 30 and 40 times on the campaign trail, which is Iran must not be allowed to get a bomb.
Oh, and so that means us dropping bombs. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that those were one and the same. I'm just messing with you, bro. I'm just messing with you. Yeah, he's like, well, Iran shouldn't be allowed to do this. Therefore, we must celebrate Israel bombing them. A lot of leaps here, a lot of leaps in logic, buddy.
Between 30 and 40 times on the campaign trail, which is Iran must not be allowed to get a bomb. And he's achieving that outcome while not taking any of the blame or any of the flag for it. That was the case.
He's getting a lot of blame from me.
On Friday, obviously, the situation has evolved since then, and there's now a much bigger debate. But at that time, he had absolutely played the blinder in allowing Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli military to achieve the military objective, while also sort of claiming that he's not involved and kind of at that time
if he now gets involved, as the jungle drums seem to be suggesting, that is a massive moment for Donald Trump, I would say. I mean, you could argue that is the most important decision he will have taken as a president, and maybe the most important decision he ever takes. If he actually starts bombing with American forces Iran, that is a massive thing to be doing. Do you think it's, as Tucker Carlson says, something that could imperil his presidency?
We are in the unknown, so nobody knows how this is going to play out. I think we should all be honest about that and be fair. What I think it really fundamentally depends on this.
Then what? Wait. If we're all so ignorant as to what's going to happen, then why are we so steadfast in doing that? It has to be this. Why is the reaction to like, hold on, are we sure? If the answer is no, then why?
Should all be honest about that and be fair. What I think it really fundamentally depends on is what you mean by the word involved. If you mean that America is going to help Israel shoot down ballistic missiles, I don't know that will be such a major decision or will be seen.
Well, let me paint a picture where they use B-52 bombs
talking about.
And they drop one of these buster bombs to try and get to the nuclear sites that the Israelis can't get to because they haven't got that technology. If they were to do that, in other words, directly use American forces to do the bombing, would your calculation about Trump change?
These are all hypotheticals. Because the one thing that I do know, and I think Dave will tell you this himself, is the thing that people in the United States, from talking to people there, are most concerned about is any sort of boots on the ground scenario. They do not want American soldiers in the Middle East. I think they're right not to. I genuinely think that.
And so this is going to help not have that happen? celebrating Israel bombing. That's going to help not have American boots on the ground in Iran. Okay.
So fundamentally, it really depends on what happens and the way that it happens. And you're right, it is a big decision. But I think it's, but all this stuff. I mean, Dave's calling for
what? You think it's what? You were about to say an opinion on it, and you have yet to do so.
Decision. But I think it.
I think it's.
Ooh,
I can't say what I think it is because I don't know what the fuck is happening yet because it only is this week.
All this stuff. I mean, Dave's calling for President Trump to be impeached over this. When
that, I think, was a bit of an overreaction. I mean, it's Dave Smith, libertarian extraordinaire, so fair enough. He always was begrudgingly more in the Trump camp than the Kamala, but he was always against it. But, I had liberals sending that to me as a big gotcha, like, oh, see, even Dave Smith doesn't love Trump anymore. Like, tell me you don't know what you're talking about without telling me, I don't know what you're talking about. So you said if we actually thought Iran was trying to assassinate Trump or actually have a nuke, Delta Force and Green Berets would already be on the ground. It wouldn't be on TV. Well, apparently, that is not what most people think. I did a poll in the previous stream of if we knew that Iran was sending military operatives to come and assassinate Trump, would that be justification to go to war? And like 80%, more than 80% of people said no. And I was like, maybe that's just a small sample. So I did it on my community tab, and the last I checked this morning was 50-50. I'm waiting for an explanation as to why anybody, but Iran specifically, but anybody, would be able to send military operatives onto U.S. soil to try to assassinate our leader, and that wouldn't be justification for war. I don't know. I thought I was anti-war, but I'd be down for it in that situation. DJ said, to be fair, it's unlikely a lot of conventional warfare tactics like boots on the ground will be required. If it does occur, it will be limited. And true, but that doesn't lessen the fact that each individual person that goes is an individual person. And so, because we have better technology, it's going to be more about the money that we spend and the cost of human lives on the other side. But it's still bad. It's still expensive, and Americans will still get hurt.
It's, but all this stuff. I mean, Dave's calling for President Trump to be impeached over this when this is something that he promised the American people 30 to 40 times on the.
No, he didn't.
The campaign.
Well, okay. But on that, I would clarify that he said that number of times that Iran should not be allowed to have a nuclear bomb. That is indisputable. He also has consistently portrayed himself as a man who wants peace, not war. I'm going to solve the problem in Ukraine, solve the Middle East, and so on. This would go against all of his claims to be that person.
And that's why a lot of MAGA, a lot of America First, is not with this shit.
And, of course, the big debate behind all this is that Tulsi Gabbard...
get that to Israel and D.C. stat. I don't get it. I don't get it. You said covert ops is covert. I believe more if they sent in spec ops than just a messy drone war. But a messy drone war is more money. Yep. And I mean, that's kind of when like around when October 7th happened and all this really started kicking up again, or at least the conversation. Then that was, my default position of not really understanding the conflict. We're like, okay, well, if Israel's got a good, army, military, then, and they're fighting with Palestine, what does that have to do with us? What does that have to do with us? Like, I get that they're an ally, but like specifically, is there a reason today that they need us to do that? And I still haven't gotten that answer. I'm not saying there's not. I just have not gotten that answer. And I'm looking for the same thing here. Give me a reason. I'm not claiming to know that everything that's happening is absolutely wrong and there's no justification, there's no excuse for it. I'm not making any claim like that. I'm asking questions because I'm pleading ignorance. I don't really understand. So I'm looking to people who seem to know more than I do. And I'm just asking, my default position is America first, no war. So now we're talking about war for another country. Just give me the reason and you got me on board.
That person. And, of course, the big debate behind all this is that Tulsi Gabbard, his own director of national intelligence, the IAEA director last night, they both said in very recent times, including 24 hours ago, in the case of the Atomic Agency, that there is no evidence that they've seen that Iran is anywhere near progressing to an actual nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key point of this.
So I like Tulsi Gabbard. We've had her in trigonometry. I think she's a great human being, which is why I did her.
Nice little shameless little plug there. Shout out to Larkbark. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Said funding for Israel shouldn't be automatic. It's reasonable to scrutinize it without anti-Semitic intentions. And I think that, you know what? Some CT was, or one of you asked, was like, what's up with Konstantin before? And I think that is it. It's the equivocation. In the same way that the woke left will equivocate anything that you say against like welfare or anything that affects black people, that it must be because you hate black people. The woke right sees anything that you say against Israel must be because you're anti-Semitic. It's that simple. CT said Iran funded Hamas. That's why they went at Iran. But Israel created Hamas to fight the PLO. It's just a big Middle East circle jerk. Yep.
So I like Tulsi Gabbard. We've had her in trigonometry. I think she's a great human being, which is why I did her the courtesy of watching the full clip of her.
I think that's what Lark is saying, is that not all of us are speaking of global politics, and the woke right will just say that it's anti-Semitic.
Testimony that she gave. And what she says in that testimony is that Iran is not pursuing the nuclear weapons program, but what Iran is doing is enriching uranium to 60% and beyond, which is a clear indication of their desire either to actually make nuclear weapons or to move much, much closer to a position to be able to make them.
So just like Ukraine, we're in a situation where it's like, okay, well, if we don't fight this war, then maybe potentially there might be a war. That made no sense. Guys, really quick, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that like button, it really, really does help. It's free and it's easy and it helps. 1 like equals 1 America first.
Make nuclear weapons or to move much, much closer to a position to be able to make them. As I think Dave would concede from all the nuclear scientists, what they're saying is you need about 3 to 5% enriched uranium for civilian purposes. They are now enriching uranium to 60%. And by the way, this is also in the IAEA report, and no one's talking about this. They're using their 20% uranium to make 60% uranium, which is, again, an indicator of the fact that they're moving either towards attempting to make nuclear weapons at some point or to be in a position to do so. And that is the threat. And there is no other reason for them to be doing that. So, yeah.
Well, that was specifically and exactly my question. There's no other reason that they would be doing that? Genuine question. I don't know shit about uranium. There's no other reason. So if they're increasing their uranium count or strength, then it must be nuclear weapons. Maybe. Again, I'm not claiming to know. I'm asking.
Position to do so. And that is the threat. And there is no other reason for them to be doing that. So yes, they don't have the exact bomb ready to go, but they're moving in that direction. And Israel is in a position to deal with that threat for the first.
I mean, I wouldn't call them atheists, but the rest of it, I'm with you.
Time in a very long time. And I understand why they're doing it.
Okay, Dave, before we get to your response to that, just explain to people why you have called what Donald.
No, I don't remember that. I'm pleading ignorance here. I do not know a lot at all about Iran.
Trump is doing a betrayal, and why you think he should be impeached.
Well, I think he has brought us into a war with Iran. Now, how much this war escalates, we will see. And I think that this is it is the most profoundly risky and reckless policy he could have pursued, or just about. I think this is very likely going to lead to a catastrophe, much like all of the other terror wars, including the one, Pierce, that you heroically led the opposition in the UK to in 2003, of course, referring to the war in Iraq. And as you remember well, Pierce, from that war, the justifications just kept constantly changing. And then when one fell away, they'd move to the next one. Oh, he was in on 9/11. Okay.
The WMDs.
Wasn't in on 9/11, but he's got weapons of mass destruction. Okay, he doesn't have weapons of mass destruction, but we have to liberate the people or bring democracy. And I've already seen that it's remarkable how sped up it is. I've already seen so many of the war hawks bouncing back and forth between all of these different justifications. But of course, in the end, they are all of the justifications failed. Not only did he not have weapons of mass destruction, not only was he not in on 9/11, but we also didn't liberate the people. The worst thing that ever happened to the people of Iraq was George W. Bush's war there. And as far as Iran enriching up to 60%, yes, it's true that they only need, I think, between 3 to 5% for civilian nuclear purposes, and maybe some like around 20 to 25% for some medical needs. But that is what is known as a latent nuclear deterrent. There is another reason why they would have that. They want to demonstrate that they can get the bomb, but they don't have it right now to stop something like this happening. But
So that's not a super strong reason, but you know, again, if we're getting ourselves into a war, then maybe we want to be a little bit more sure that maybe they're doing this. So CTA said it was part of a hacker group. They hacked the centrifuges to overspin and explode, and it worked for a while. But here we are. Here we are. Dave Smith always cooking it hot. Shout out to 80s, baby. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So has the American military started feeding the military steak and lobster? If not, it's probably just fear propaganda. I can agree with that. Shout out to Belladine in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So they are our allies. Well, should they be? Because it seems like an ally is not someone that constantly drags you into bullshit, at least for the last 3 years directly here. And then how much other stuff before October 7th when it was, you know, at the top of all the news. And this is what, you know, Lockbark was saying before, that doesn't have to be anti-Semitic. It has nothing to do with Judaism or Jews or anything like that. It has to do with the fact that I live in this country. I pay taxes to this country. And there's issues in this country, but yet that money is going elsewhere. And maybe our people, not about it. But welcome to the party. Mighty Sarlog said, should we support our allies when they do something we don't agree with? Are we supposed to support their bad decisions? And I mean, I think the answer is that, like, the way it's supposed to be is yes. But that is precisely why I'm like, maybe I don't want to be allies with anybody. All the allies are all our allies. It's a deal for them. It's not really a deal for us. We don't need to be allies with anybody, at least militarily.
That they can get the bomb, but they don't have it right now to stop something like this happening. But the bottom line is that since 2007, our CIA has said they don't have nuclear weapons and they're not striving to achieve them. Tulsi Gabbard, not only in her testimony, but in the Director of National Intelligence as her capacity serving that role, in the annual threat assessment just put out a couple months ago, reaffirmed the same thing. And so is the global community. Iran has been willing to negotiate this entire time. And maybe the negotiations haven't been successful, but even Benjamin Netanyahu, in his interview with Brett Baer the other day, couldn't even manage to lie and say that they've broken out and they're pursuing. He said maybe a year. The same thing he's been saying since I was 7 years old, lying over and over and over again because he wants a regime change war here. And he said this in his own words, and so have all of the neoconservatives. Look, right here on your show, Pierce, which I think might be the most fascinating moment in the history of Uncensored, when General Wesley Clark reaffirmed that not only had he seen the plans to overthrow 7 countries in 5 years, but that it went all the way back to the early 90s, and that it was revived, in his words, in a study paid for by the Israelis. They've gotten the 6 other ones. This is the 7th one.
And so now then the question of, okay, they're getting more uranium, and Konstantin is saying that their only reason would be because they are making this bomb, and therefore we need to go fight them. And Dave is saying, well, maybe there's something else, and it doesn't necessarily need to be something that we need to jump to war, that we should definitely investigate and see what's going on, but we should do that first. And then if there's an issue, then we go and deal with it. An issue for us.
This war is not about nukes that Iran doesn't have. And just one more point I would make, as the great Scott Horton said the other day. Look, I mean,
yeah, if you got a short side quest, we could do that. Otherwise, we could check some stuff out in the after party. Guys, don't forget to become a member to join the after party.
Even if they were developing nukes, which they're not, you know, Truman knew that the Soviets were developing nukes. He didn't launch an aggressive war against them for it. And Johnson knew that Mao Zedong was developing nukes. He still didn't launch an aggressive war against the country. And the point is that you could sit here and say, just like they did with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, you could sit here and say, no, we're just going to have a no-fly zone. We won't have boots on the ground. We won't have this. Look.
And then
Iran has already demonstrated, in a few days that this war has been going on, that they're more capable than all of the other countries we picked on in the terror wars. They've already hit Israel and killed people there. What's going to happen when a few Americans get killed? Hopefully this doesn't, but what's going to happen if that happens? What do you think Donald Trump's going to do?
And that's exactly what I'm trying to get to, is that, like, I understand what Konstantin is saying, but it doesn't seem like, given that we've already been doing this regime change playbook over and over and over and over, and it doesn't work, and it's not good for America, that these talking points wouldn't just be like, well, it does seem that way on paper, but as we've seen from history, they don't work like that.
About them is an amazingly big question.
Shout out to IndieBam! Welcome to the party. Said like and subscribe. Please do, guys. All of that stuff, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff is free. It's easy, and it really, really does help. Even if you share the video and you don't think anybody's going to click on the link, it doesn't matter. Just by you telling YouTube, I want more people to see this, they will show it to more people. Thank you, and welcome to the party. Also, guys, don't forget about our swole goal. We can 15 supers of any amount. So $15 will hit it, or a $50 total reaches the goal. And then shout out to Funkmaster General. And if we hit the goal, every $2 equals 1 push-up. We got to bulk me up. Help me out.
Konstantin, your response to that?
Well, it's fascinating. So the Iranians are willing to negotiate, but the negotiations aren't going anywhere. That's a very strange way of looking at it. Look, there's so much to address there, Piers.
What do you mean? That's what negotiation is. Sometimes it's going to be back and forth, and it may not be going well, but like he tried to use that as a gotcha. You negotiated, and you guys didn't automatically agree. Yeah, that's why we're negotiating, bruh.
Aren't going anywhere. That's a very strange way of looking at it. Look, there's so much to address there, Piers. First of all, you've got to think about this and understand this from an Israeli perspective in the situation. A lot of people think that Israel has just launched the war in Iran. That's not how Israel sees this at all. Israel has been at war with Iran since October the 7th, when an Iranian proxy, Hamas, attacked them. On October the 8th, an Iranian proxy, Hezbollah, began to fire rockets into Israel. Then the Houthis, another Iranian proxy, began to attack shipping and also Israel. Right now, what has happened since then is Israel is.
Shout out to CT. Just dropped this. I'll put it in the chat. It's the wiki page for the hacker group he was talking about. A little long to go through now, but if you already remember, come through and we won't talk about it in the after party.
To attack shipping and also Israel. Right now, what has happened since then is Israel has eliminated those threats to I was going to say deballed, but decapitated Hezbollah. They dealt with the threat of Hamas, and they are now in a position to deal with the threat they've always been concerned about. Now, why is Israel so concerned about this? Well, first of all, Iran has been saying for a very long time, they don't want regime change in Israel. They want the state of Israel not to exist. Now, think about the fact that in the post-October 7 world, they cannot take the risk that they're only enriching uranium to 60% because they want to threaten to have nuclear weapons.
Did you see that? Oh, I think he triggered Dave in the good way. He's like, oh, you said that. Okay. All right. Look at his face.
They're only enriching uranium to 60%.
Like, oh, wait till I get the mic back,
because
baby.
They want to threaten to have nuclear weapons. That is not something they can do. And by the way, Piers, there's something that people don't seem to understand about. We struggle in the West. I really do think we all struggle in the West to understand the fundamentalist mindset. And let me give you an example of what the regime in Iran is like, so that we can all understand what the threat here is.
Well, have you been?
After the Islamic Revolution happened in Iran in 79, the war broke out between Iran and Iraq. And in that war, Iran was at a disadvantage. It was military.
Put a 1 in the chat if you have not seen the before and after pictures from that revolution, or whatever they call it, like pictures of Iran in 1979 and versus like 1981.
Backward, it wasn't financially able to deal with that. And you know what they did? They attempted to mitigate that by recruiting as many child soldiers as they could. We don't know how many because they didn't bother to count, but it's hundreds of thousands. And because some of them were too young and too weak to fight, they didn't send them to the front line. They sent them to sweep minefields with their own bodies. That is what this regime does.
Yeah, nobody's saying that they're not bad. Nobody's saying that they're not bad. We're just saying, does it justify going to war? Of course, not a great quality, but you can see here, this was all before the revolution. This was Iran. You know, skirts, women dressing like normal people, and hold on, let me get a better one that has a before and after. How about? Ooh, what is this? What do we have here? Oh, God damn it! Hold on one second here. Yeah. Can I make this bigger? Oh, there we go. So yeah, Iranian, of course, the Iranian kids before the 1979 Islamic Revolution. All right, we're gonna get after. Come on, Instagram. There's no way to scrub through the video. Jesus Christ. Well, let's see. We got this is what I was looking for. So we have before and after. Before and after. And guess what, guys? This is what they want to do to you. This is what they want to do to America. CT said it's a long story. Basically, they made a worm that overspins the computer disk drives, which is applied to the centrifuge systems, and they overspin until they explode. Sounds like a pretty good plan to do some evil shit. She said Iran and Iraq were beautiful countries. Young population, lots of potential for growth. Until the bombs. 80s baby said Iran was very progressive and civilized. Yeah. And then Islam. Dogma ruins everything, guys. It ruins everything. Shout out to Box in the building. Welcome to the party. Said a happy belated Juneteenth. Fair enough. When was that? I don't remember. But yeah. Iran before the revolution. Iran after the revolution. And again, they want to bring that here.
Send them to sweep mine,
not necessarily in this conflict, but I mean in general,
fields with their own bodies. That is what this regime does. Now,
I want him to hear that in full.
And in that war, Iran was at a disadvantage. It was militarily backward. It wasn't financially able to deal with that. You know what they did? They attempted to mitigate that by recruiting as many child soldiers as they could. We don't know how many because they didn't bother to count, but it's hundreds of thousands. And because some of them were too young and too weak to fight, they didn't send them to the front line. They sent them to sweep minefields with their own bodies. That is what this regime does. Now, if those people...
Therefore, it's okay for America to just send money and people to blow other kids up.
People are willing to do that to their own children, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. What do you
appeal to emotion? Awesome. Box was on an Iran kick last night. So again, I'm coming to you guys from ignorance. So maybe Box will be able to fill in some stuff that we don't know. Mighty Solak said, agreed. Dogma ruins everything and holds us back from higher learning. For example, the medieval times. Yep, they didn't call it the Dark Ages for nothing. It wasn't Islam, it was USA coups. We went over through Iraq and installed Saddam for oil. Same with Iran. Then when they showed interest to not use the dollar as trade currency, we overthrew. I'm not talking about the that's why I said not the current conflict. I'm talking about the dogma of like the promised land and the God's chosen people and all that stuff. So absolutely, I'm not taking any responsibility away from the U.S. government for being America, America World Police. Completely agreed. Box said there is apparently a crown price ready to step into the gap to stop a vacuum. I don't know what that means.
Think they would do to the children of their enemies if they get a nuclear weapon or if they get close to, or if they're allowed to continue funding proxies around the Middle East in order to attack Israel as they've already done.
Dave Smith.
Okay, can I respond
He's
to some
ready.
of this, Pierce? Because as I always insist when I come on your show, it's always ironically, I get called a moral relativist when I criticize Israel, but I'm the one who's always asking for an objective standard here that we can judge all sides on. Because it's just, you can just focus on the horrible things that Iran did in the 1980 war with Iraq, which Saddam Hussein launched, and the U.S. backed Saddam Hussein as he was using chemical weapons. And
so that justifies using children to walk into minefields?
No, that is not what I'm saying.
Okay,
Straw man.
What are you
my
saying?
point here. Instead of just straw manning, well, I was about to say, so let me finish it. Okay. By the way, Israel never killed any children, as you know, Pierce, right? They have the most.
Israel is not sending its own children into minefields. It's a massive difference.
Okay, so it's bad to kill children, but only if you're using them to sweep minefields? He's got a lot of weird principles.
Konstantin, let me finish my point, and then you can respond to it and see if you can take it on. Now, when you sit here and say that they've been at war with Iran since October 7th because Hamas is their proxies. What exactly, proxy means that I would think you have operational control over them or something like that.
Well, actually, let me explain.
Oh, come on, Piers. Come on. You just let Konstantin go off. And you saw that they was ready. And you're trying to save him. You're trying to save him.
I think that means, because I've been arguing that point.
Yep. Weird.
In terms of understanding where Israel comes from on this, which is, there can be no doubt, I don't think, Dave, you would cast doubt on this, that Iran has financially and militarily given active and sustained support for a number of years to Hezbollah, to the Houthis, and to Hamas. I mean, you wouldn't dispute that.
Right. So, Pierce, then by your logic and Konstantin's logic, is Israel our proxy? They just attacked Iran.
Well, I would say that Israel is actually, you could well argue, given the amount of support that America gives Israel militarily and economically, yes.
Now the question is, should we? Because again, now we're not talking about allies specifically. We're talking about proxies specifically.
I think,
fine.
One person's ally is another person's proxy.
Can I make some points on this?
Hold on. Let me just.
Yeah. So I think ally, proxy.
Can I flesh out your Dave? I'm very happy to hear a counter argument. Can I just flesh out Pierce's point a little bit, if that's okay? So here's what we know. According to the State Department's own figures, Iran gives Hamas about $100 million a year. Latest figures. They've been funding Hamas since the early 1990s. Yahya Sinwar said in 2017 that Iran is the single biggest military and financial backer of Hamas's military wing. In September 2023, a month before October the 7th, 500 Hamas fighters and
how long, Box?
Palestinian Islamic Jihad fighters were being trained by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard abroad. I can't remember if it's in Lebanon or in Iran proper. And there are numerous chronicled, documented meetings between senior commanders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Hamas and Hezbollah fighters in the lead up to. What do you think they were doing? Talking about world peace and swapping hummus recipes?
Oh, another straw man from Konstantin Kissin. Again, Box, I'm asking you how long that video is, so that I can determine whether it's we could do a side quest. 80s Baby said Christians are being baited to intervene and support Israel. Let Israel protect itself. Agreed. God will never let Israel be expunged from existence completely. Well, I mean, hey, if that's the line we're going with, sure, yeah, we don't need to do anything in Israel because God is going to make sure that nothing happens. So, hey, keep all our money and people at home. Box, just tell me how long the video is. I asked you in the Discord, then you asked me here. I told you on just tell me how long is the video so that I can know how long the video is. CD said it's funny how all of a sudden, all of the sudden, they know what proxy war is, but since Ukraine was invaded, it was never a proxy war. Putin was just a dick. No principles, just positions. That, my friend, is wokeness. Shout out to RJ. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you. 6 minutes not too long. Let's take a little side quest. What does Box have for us? Exiled Crown Prince of Iran sees, quote, best opportunity to get rid of the regime.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tells ABC News targeting the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, would end the fight between the two countries, not escalate it. Netanyahu's comments come as Iran's exiled crown prince says it's time for the Iranian military and security forces to abandon the Islamic Republic. Reza Pahlavi's grandfather was the last Shah of Iran before the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The exiled crown prince of Iran and advocate for secular democratic Iran, Reza Pahlavi, joins me now for more. Sir, thank you for coming on. You say now is the time for the Iranian people to come together and reclaim Iran by getting rid of the Ayatollah. Why do you think that? And could the Iranian people do this without an international effort?
Well, first of all, this is not a new fight for us. It's been going on for decades, and particularly in the latter years, we've seen how many times the Iranians have gathered together in protest and defiance of the regime, knowing full well that as long as this regime is in place, there's no hope for a better future for all of us as Iranians. Now the opportunity has been provided in the sense that
it is pretty ironic, right? You're gonna name it. It's not trigonometry. It's triggernometry because everybody's getting triggered, and then he gets all triggered. Come on, man. Come on. So again, the Chiron here is saying exiled crown prince of Iran says now is the time for the Iranian people to abandon Islamic Republic. Okay.
When you're fighting an extremely brutal and repressive regime, when it's been now declawed and we are sensing almost a state of collapse by the regime, by people beginning to defect, by relatives of the regime taking flight, by the leader himself hiding in an underground tunnel, I think that this is an opportunity that we have never had this far in the past 4 decades. And this is the best opportunity for us to finally overcome this regime and get rid of it. So,
Box, that's what he's saying, getting back to, the pictures that we saw from 1979. That, in politics, that's the question we can never, ever know. But we got to take it for exactly. This
is the best opportunity for us to finally overcome this regime and get rid of it. So I think my fellow compatriots are energized in the fact that finally they can see light at the end of the tunnel, and all the martyrs and all the people we have lost in our struggle against this regime will not have died in vain. This is our moment in history to change not only the course of things in our own country, but something that I believe would also be to the best interest of the free world.
So, hey, I am all for that. But I don't necessarily think that it should be on America to make sure that it happens. That is, it's just, it's not it doesn't follow that just because I think that Iran and, largely the world would probably be better with less Islamic regimes in place, then that, again, it doesn't follow that we have to do it. Go and do it. Real quick, let's take a break. The show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and it's absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our Disciple chat for members only, our Word of the Day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join. There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there. And of course, remember, guys, if you hit that free link at the top of the chat, where normally that would just get you into the free chat and not in any of the other channels or the after party. If you join during this stream, I will give you a day pass for that after party. It is a good time. Come and join us.
Our fighters in the lead up to it. What do you think they were doing? Talking about world peace and swapping hummus recipes? This is something that they've been involved in very heavily, and they continue to be involved in. And Hamas and Hezbollah are the sword hanging over Israel's neck that Iran has used in order to prevent the very thing that's happening now.
Dave?
Okay, so to be clear here, it's an outrage that Iran has sold weapons and given money to Hamas, and therefore Hamas is their proxy. Yet, as we all know, Piers, and me and you have discussed this, 2 weeks before October 7th, Benjamin Netanyahu sends the head of Mossad to Qatar to make sure that the funding to Hamas continues. Yet, is Hamas now a proxy of Israel? Is Israel at war with itself?
Well,
I mean, by that logic, who said it before? Just the Middle Eastern circle jerk. It really, really is.
So I think on that point, I certainly think that Benjamin Netanyahu, when
I'm with you. I'm with you. Like, I mean, these guys have done their deep dives. What really do I need to know about the intricacies of it to be able to understand if I want to be involved? Certainly, there's a level of understanding that you need, but I mean, this is I'm not, no shade to anybody, but just speaking for myself here, that it's treated as if, like I said, the day that all of this kicked off, somebody sent me a link and was like, "What's your thoughts? What's your position?" It's like, bro, I don't know. This is just happening right now, and to create the standard where as soon as something happens, you have to have all of the right answers. Otherwise, you're bad or you're wrong is a big reason why people just tune out in the first place. And so my channel here is not a newscast channel. You don't come to me to see what is happening in the news. I try to stay up to date and keep relevant stuff. But we're here to break down the conversations and the way that people are talking and the cultural impact of all of these things. And it like people just don't understand. They want, because your face is on their YouTube, then you must know everything about everything.
Real at war with itself.
Well, I think on that point, I certainly think that Benjamin Netanyahu, when this is all over, is going to have a monumental day of reckoning, not just in the corruption court.
He should.
But I think he's going to have,
I mean, maybe not Gaddafi bad, but something.
A monumental day of reckoning about how he allowed this to happen on his watch, how Mossad so spectacularly dropped the ball. No one can give me a good explanation for why they can carry out this kind of attack on Hezbollah with the pages and carry out so precise an attack in Iran, but didn't apparently know that Hamas was spending 20 years building a tunnel system and didn't know 3,000 of them were about to pour over the border. I will never defend Netanyahu in this. I think he's going to be a busted flush. I suspect he sees this attack on Iran as being
I don't even know what a busted flush is, but based on the context, I agree.
He's going to be a busted flush. I suspect he sees this attack on Iran as being a chance to avoid being a busted flush for a little longer than it might have been the case. But there's going to be a day of reckoning for him. And the fact that he actively encouraged billions of dollars to be funneled to Hamas to create a divide and rule strategy between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority has also turned out to be one of the most catastrophically wrong things that an Israeli leader could possibly have done. So,
yeah. And shout out to people like CT who are more willing and interested in that stuff, and all the way up to the Dave Smiths and even the Piers Morgans and the Konstantin Kissins, the people who just know more about this stuff than me. By being, it's a shortcut. It's a shortcut to be able to understand how people speak and how that reflects what's in their mind. And so I'm not saying that, because I watched or listened to Dave Smith, I know everything Dave Smith knows. No, obviously not. But because of the fact that I don't know anything anywhere near as much as Dave Smith does, then yeah, I could go and read, a million bajillion different things. Or I can listen to a couple podcasts from him, a couple podcasts from people that disagree with him, a couple liberal podcasts, and get enough of an idea so that I can understand the general idea of where, what's going on and does this align with my values in order to make a decision at that point. I don't need to know the name of, this and the street. And some people feel like you do, but other people are just interested in that. And so shout out to anybody who is more interested that I can leech off your knowledge.
That to be one of the most catastrophically wrong things that an Israeli leader could possibly have done. So, look, that's where I sit with that.
Oh, whoa. I thought you said there is an hummus that's not good. Bro, why are you eating Sabra? Sabra ain't bad, but real hummus, homemade hummus, bruh.
Catastrophically wrong things that an Israeli leader could possibly have done. So, look, that's where I sit with Netanyahu.
None of this makes Hamas an Israel proxy, right?
Okay, fine. Well, yeah, it did kind of by the definition.
Yeah, it doesn't, except by your definition.
Primary source of their funding or support.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, it's got to be primary, just being, okay, fine, whatever. Anyway, the point is this, right? Obviously, right now, Israel has...
I'm sorry, I didn't think, we're going to back that up. I'm sorry, I didn't think of this. But the exact thing that...
Primary source of their funding or support.
It's got to be a primary. This is the same type of argumentation as the woke left making arguments as to why shaving is racist or something. Well, and because of this and the particulars of that and this, that, that makes it racist. This is just the inverse. Well, because it's not the primary source of funding, and we're funding and supporting them, and potentially are going to have boots on the ground and are openly celebrating them on the world stage. We're not their primary source, so it's okay. Does that sound like it's a response to Dave's position?
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean,
none of this makes Hamas an Israel
agree.
Proxy, right?
Okay, fine. Well, yeah. I mean, it did kind of by the definition.
They're not the primary source of their funding
or
support.
Okay, fine. Okay, it's got to be primary. Just being okay, fine, whatever. Anyway, the point is this, right? Obviously, right now, Israel has taken out much of the Hezbollah leadership. The Houthis have been bombed. I think there's still a bit of a problem for them. They've been absolutely leveling Gaza, and so they think this is the moment. And of course, Bashar al-Assad fell as well. So now they think this is the moment for regime change in Iran. It's the same reason why people like Ben Shapiro were celebrating when Bashar al-Assad fell. Now the Shiite crescent is no longer supplying weapons from Iran to Hezbollah. But I'm not an Israeli. I'm an American. I'm not cheering when the emir of Al-Qaeda takes over in Syria. And listen, whatever.
And exactly. So the fact that Dave Smith is here, who does know a lot more than I do, and saying that knowing that emir of Al-Qaeda takes over in Syria, okay, then I'm just not going to care about that. There's other stuff that I want to look into. And there's other things that personally I'm more interested in. And I think that I'm better suited to spend my time looking into. So you see, I learned a lot from Dave about Ukraine or Israel and Israel. Weird phrasing. Sorry. He seems more knowledgeable on those than Iran. I'm still waiting for his 5-minute crushing rant. Oh, we gonna get there, baby. We gonna get there. And of course, amen. America first. What was that movie with? It was Chris Rock and Bernie Mac. But the movie about like the whatever party was like, okay, we definitely have to lose this election, so let's just pick somebody black to make us look good. And they pick Chris Rock playing some. Is it Chris Rock? It is Chris Rock, right? Yeah. What is that movie? And the guy is saying, "God bless America and no place else." And the big climax of the movie is when Chris Rock's character is like, "No, God bless America and everywhere else." Everybody's like, "Oh my God." That is definitely not Independence Day. I mean, maybe that happens as well, but that is definitely not Independence Day where Chris Rock is running for president. I will find it. But point being, head of state. There you go. Shout out to Lark Park. Thank you. Yeah. Funny movie. But, at the time, I was like, yeah, that is weird to be like, God bless America and no place else. But now, I mean, I don't believe in God, but for all intents and purposes, God bless America and no place else.
When the emir of Al-Qaeda takes over in Syria.
See, I thought emir was a name.
And listen, whatever you put the risk at here, which if this thing keeps escalating, the risk of this going to a real ground war, another war in the war on terrorism, let me be very clear when I say this. I don't know that America will survive this. We went into the terror wars.
That's a really good point. I don't know if I agree, because I think that by and large, the military is not as subject. Obviously, we saw the stuff with the rainbow helmets and all that stuff. But the military, compared to just the rest of American society, doesn't seem to be that far gone. But that's a really good point. Where is he going to take this?
Be very clear when I say this. I don't know that America will survive this. We went into the terror wars in a much stronger place than we're going into this one. And this is a much tougher opponent than Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi. We didn't.
And who was talking about the other day the fact that Iraq is, super flat and Iran's got a lot of mountains, makes it a little bit more difficult to fight.
didn't go into the terror wars $37 trillion in debt. We didn't go into the terror wars with the cultural and political and racial divides. We have mass protests in the streets right now over Donald Trump trying to enforce his immigration policy. This is going to be, this has the potential to be an utter disaster. And why should any American or British person for that matter, why should any of us support this war? Because Israel thinks it's in their interest. Israel has attacked.
Well, I would argue,
let them do it. If it's in their interest, let them do it. But yes, real quick, we were talking about head of state. And who is it? Nick Cersei plays Cersei, whatever. He plays the pretty good score. 2003. Oh man, when they still made good comedies. But yeah, God bless America and no place else. It's sketchy. CT said the USA bonds have already been reduced from AAA to AA. What he's talking about is factual. We're on the verge of defaulting. What exactly does that mean? So obviously, I'm assuming that we're talking about the strength of the dollar. Is that what this is referring to?
Us support this war.
Oh, you guys, I'm ignorant. I'm not out here trying to say that I know everything or much of anything.
Because Israel thinks it's in their interest. Israel has attacked.
Well, I would argue
we could stop them from doing that. That is a very interesting. I did not even ever think of that. But so what would that look like if we were saying like, all right, clearly Iran is on some bullshit. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's like, all right, if they pop off, you're going to come to us anyway. So why don't you sit the fuck down and we'll let this play out. And if we need to go to war, then we'll go to war. Let's not go to war so that we don't have to go to war. Stupid. Exactly like we did in Ukraine.
Any of us support this war because Israel thinks it's in their interest. Israel has attacked.
Well, I would argue. Okay. No, I would.
Hey, shout out to equality and deference because vagina. Welcome to the party. Sorry, Morty, no treats yet. Don't forget, guys. Every donation comes with a treat for the overlord Morty here. But thank you. Quality said liked and shared again, guys. You know how much that stuff helps. So thank you very, very much. Welcome to the party. 23 years ago. I'm still, in my mind, 23 years ago is like 1985. Time. God damn. Quality said defaulting means we can no longer borrow money, meaning we will print it ourselves into oblivion. And TT said, yeah, about the dollar, a AAA bond is better than a AA bond. Bonds are like government debt. Other countries buy our debt because it's highly valued and they get to use US dollars. So, yeah, in that case, I definitely, or at least instead of saying I agree with Dave, because he's just presented that, and it sounds like it makes sense to me, I'm going to say that sounds like it makes sense to me. So if somebody can say something else that makes sense to me that debunks that, then I will go along with that. See how that works?
Israel thinks it's in their interest. Israel has attacked.
Well, I would argue. I would argue it's not just in Israel's interest. I think Iran is an evil regime that oppresses its people, that has funded terrorism.
So was Saddam Hussein.
Well, yeah, I agree. But in Saddam Hussein's case, I never believed.
Saddam Hussein never funded terrorism.
Well, I never believed that Saddam Hussein had WMD. I think the difference
there was no terrorism in Iraq until we got rid of Saddam. Actually,
no, I'm sorry. Just to be clear, I said that.
I mean, true.
Before I heard Piers Morgan make that point, I was thinking about being a brutally oppressive.
Why is it? This is probably the most professional news type show that mimics, TV. The TV news shows that at one time were clearly at the top. So if you're going to be mimicking that, I don't know why I said measuring. If you're going to be mimicking that, why are you still using whatever kind of technology where there's such a heavy delay? I wonder if it's partly because the delay leads to people talking over each other and more clippable moments. Because I'm using the most basic level of StreamYard in my living room. It's like $200 a year. And I can pull somebody up and hear you in real time. And even the chat is a couple of seconds. I hate it.
clear. I said that before I heard Piers Morgan make that point. I was saying about being a brutally oppressive, oppressive dictator.
I think you can't hold any truck for this Iranian regime. I think a lot of Iranian people would agree with that. I think they would love to get rid of them. I think that Israel has every right to feel threatened by Iran's tentacles and the way they supported 3 different terror groups right on their border. So I'm not saying that you're not right, that this might all backfire. Let
me just ask you.
I'm not saying it may not backfire. I'm just saying I do understand why Israel has decided to do it now. I think they sense that Iran's regime has never been weaker because of what's happened in Syria, because of what happened to Hezbollah.
And that's what was his name? The Crown Prince? That's pretty much what he was saying too. So again, I'm not here to be like, no, you guys are all wrong and I'm right and we shouldn't be doing anything. I'm just trying to listen.
What's been the most significant moment of the last week? Probably Hezbollah saying we're not getting involved in this, right? So, I mean, that to me was a very significant moment. And that may well have emboldened not just Israel to continue pummeling Iran, but also may have emboldened Trump to think, well, actually, if we're ever going to deal with this regime, now is the moment. Now, that's not to say, Dave.
Okay, agreed. But do we need to deal with this regime at any moment?
That you're not right, that this could all backfire horrendously. And if America gets sucked into a ground war, then it will be a complete nightmare. I've got no doubt about that.
Yes, but would you also concede, though, that if you allow Iran to enrich uranium?
That's another thing that Piers is very, very good at, is driving his own show. You guys know I always talk about, like respecting the host and people's on another platform and they're trying all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's just that Piers has the respect or if it's something else. But when he wants the conversation to stop, conversation stops.
Yes, but would you also concede? Would you concede though that if you allow Iran to enrich uranium, that also could backfire?
Yes, right. I was about to say that, and also I was about to say that Russia is now making pretty worrying noises that if America gets involved, it's not going to tolerate it. So you can't ignore that, given what's happening in Ukraine. But yeah, I think in your point, Konstantin, yes, I when I saw the IAE report, I read it and I thought they've gone from 3% to 60% uranium enrichment. And there's only one reason you would do that. Either you take Dave's view, which is they're doing that because they want to have a form of nuclear deterrent without actually having a bomb. Or if you're Israel, you're like, these people have been funding terrorism against us for decades. And now they've gone from 3% to 60%, way more than is needed for any civilian use. Clearly, they are on a fast track here to be a nuclear power. And we cannot allow that to happen. So I do, well, let Konstantin.
So again, we cannot allow that to happen. This is the exact same argument that was happening with Ukraine. And I get that Israel is a different situation. I get that. But why is the framing that we are allowing or let them deal with it?
Track here to be a nuclear power. And we cannot allow that to happen. So I do, well, let Konstantin respond first. But that's why I do understand
let's be honest.
Why Israel feels the way it does.
Well, exactly. And let's be honest about something here, Piers. The three of us are sitting in comfortable air-conditioned studios on the other side of the world from the region where this is happening. We have the luxury to pontificate about the real reason that Iran is enriching uranium to near weapons grade.
Okay, and is anybody thinking that Piers Morgan, well, I guess they're in their own places, but does anybody think that any of these people don't have air conditioning? What are you talking about?
Israel does not have the ability to get this wrong and then go, well, I apologize, I got this one wrong, as Dave has done with President Trump. He supported him.
Oh, but America can get this wrong, and it's no big deal. Iran can get this wrong, and it's no big deal. But Israel, oh, no, they definitely can't get this wrong. Like Bragg said, Konstantin Kissin is like the English version of Ben Shapiro. Oh, my God. Dilly to that. I like that. Yep, and the guilt trip. Well, there's poor babies. There's poor babies, and we have air conditioning. And then Claudia said, we funded and trained Al-Qaeda. Israel backed Hamas into a corner. Aren't they terrorists? I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask. Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is he's not talking about Gazans not having, or Israelis not having AC. He's trying to make an emotional argument that we can sit and pontificate, but Israel has to do this, that, and that. Okay, I agree with that statement. How does that help your argument?
Him being elected, and now he's going, I got it wrong, guys. Let's impeach him. Israel, if it gets this wrong, gets annihilated. They do not have the luxury of that. Now, Dave, I think the point you make about the American people, I have the greatest respect.
And again, what happens if we get it wrong?
For the American people, and they should determine the course.
And maybe you should shut up and listen to what the fuck we're saying.
The American people, I have the greatest respect for the American people, and they should determine the course of America themselves. They've elected Donald Trump, and that is the reality. No one here, Piers found out, I think, with some history, that Americans don't like being told what to do by foreigners. And I'm certainly not going to do that. It's up to the American people. I know the American people don't want boots on the ground, and neither do I.
I didn't see the chat was there, but equality with a banger. This is named Constantly Kissing Jewish Ass. Oh my God. You guys are on fire tonight. Dilly to that. That was a good one. And yeah, then where am I? Yeah, like let them go. You want to go, then go. They they'll take all they got. Soon enough, they're gonna be doing exactly what Ukraine had to do, and only be sending 40-year-old men. So they could certainly use your help. Constantly kissing Jewish ass. I love it. Love it.
I'm going to do that. It's up to the American people. I know the American people don't want boots on the ground, and neither do I, and neither do sensible people, I think. I think the extent of America's involvement should be to help Israel defend itself against the missile attacks and let them get the job done themselves. I agree with
guys. We are live
this is it.
Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube, X, and Rumble, of course. So when YouTube is giving you bullshit with the chat, just head on over. Just don't close the YouTube tab. I need the views. I need the views, man. But yeah, unfortunately, what is it? StreamYard has not integrated the Rumble or the Kick chat yet. X, it'll show up. But yeah, go to any of those or all of those.
So help Israel defend itself against the missile attacks and let them get the job done themselves. I agree with you. This is Israel's war. They should prosecute it.
Okay, good. We agree. Debate over. Let Israel handle it. It's Israel's war. Done.
Executed to the best of their ability, and they should deal with the threat that they face from Iran. I don't want a massive involvement of the West. I don't think that's what we need.
Okay, then what are we arguing about?
By the way, Piers, just one quick point, slightly tangential, but not necessarily important. For those people who care about what's happening in Ukraine, this is brilliant for Ukraine because Iran has been one of the biggest suppliers of drones, the suicide drones that have been raining down in Ukrainian cities and killing civilians and military personnel there. The fact that Iran and Russia are now having to deal with this situation takes a lot of pressure off Ukraine, and it's good for that reason as well.
All right, Dave, the one thing I would quibble with about what you said earlier was about the way that Iran has responded. They always threaten annihilation when they get attacked, right? Or when they're involved in any kind of skirmish. We've heard it towards the end of last year and nothing really happened. We've heard it again now. And although, yes, they've got through the Iron Dome several times, they've killed some civilians in Tel Aviv. This is indisputable. So they technically have done better in terms of their revenge attack than other countries have fared against Israel. I accept that. But
Lugbog said, Konstantin Kissin's stance is that of a neocon chicken hawk. Chicken hawk or a war hawk. You know what I mean? Yeah, he advocates for others to take action, but is unwilling to get involved himself. You guys should keep helping. You guys should keep helping. What's the issue? You guys should keep helping. That's his position.
Their revenge attack than other countries have fared against Israel. I accept that. But I also think we are far removed from seeing any kind of huge resistance coming out of Iran. In fact, what you're seeing is their bluff potentially getting called here, that a lot of it has been rhetoric built on sand, literally, and that they don't actually have the military capability to even tackle a country 1/10 its size in terms of population, let alone if the United States was to get involved. So I think what you're seeing is actually the opposite of the way you characterized it. I don't think you're seeing a massive response from Iran. I think you're seeing as good as they can do, and it's not very much.
Then why can't Israel handle it on their own?
Well, look, I mean, this is what remains to be seen, and we don't know. But in 2007, when Dick Cheney was trying to push George W. Bush into war with Iran, it was the Pentagon who stopped George W. Bush from doing it. And it was them who said that we do not have escalation dominance over Iran, essentially meaning that we have, we still have thousands of troops in Iraq right now. We have bases and embassies all throughout the region that they can touch. Now, we'll see, I guess, Pierce. I guess we're going to play this game. I guess we're going to play this incredibly risky game.
I agree, it's high risk.
Yeah, we all agree it's high risk. Yet we're saying we should take that risk because Israel. I'm just not convinced.
Reason, essentially, from the United States of America's interests. And, look, this stuff, I'm sorry, I just find this to be too ridiculous. All of the intelligence is saying that they don't have nuclear weapons and they're not pursuing nuclear weapons. There is one country, one government in the Middle East that is not a member of the non-proliferation treaties that has nuclear weapons.
Guess who that is?
Secretly, and it ain't Iran, it's Israel. It is so ridiculous.
Well, I agree, it's absurd. As you know, I agree. Look, I agree. I don't understand.
I agree. It's absurd. I don't understand why they're doing all the things that they're doing, but you guys should still support them.
And how Israel is allowed to continue pretending they don't have.
And also,
so there you go. There you go. We have a what was it? What did he say? Not the Oslo Accords, right?
It is so ridiculous.
Well, I agree. It's absurd. As you know, I agree. Look, I agree. I don't understand how Israel is allowed to continue pretending they don't have.
And also,
what was it called? Shit.
Nuclear weapons. They're ridiculous. All of America's interests. And, look, this stuff, I'm sorry, I just find this to be too ridiculous. All of the intelligence is saying that they don't have nuclear weapons and they're not pursuing nuclear weapons. There is one country, one government in the Middle East that is not a member of the non-proliferation treaties that has
non-proliferation treaty. So if you are part of the non-proliferation treaty and you break that treaty, seems to me like that would be enough of a reason, if along with everything else, to be like, yo, y'all on your own. We tried to help and you were fucking around. Now it's time to find out.
Nuclear weapons secretly, and it ain't Iran, it's Israel. It is so ridiculous.
Well, I agree, it's absurd. As you know, I agree. Look, I agree. I don't understand how Israel is allowed to continue pretending they don't have.
And also.
But what are you saying? Are you saying Iran should develop nuclear weapons to compensate for that reality? Or
No. What I'm saying is this, okay? Whenever you guys talk about this, even already, and Pierce, I got to say,
it always only goes in one direction.
I thought you were a little bit guilty of this right after October 7th, understandably, perhaps so. But even right now, whenever we talk, it's all about the Israeli perspective, as if we're all Israelis. Oh, Israel can't take the risk that they have 60% enrichment. Israel can't get this wrong the way I could change my mind about supporting Donald Trump. I guess Israel can get it wrong when they lure America into a war, when they pump out propaganda saying that Saddam has weapons of mass destruction.
Yup.
That's okay when they get that one wrong, but they can't get this one wrong. Okay, fine.
Why are you blaming Israel for that? It was your own government lying to us about that. I was protesting against the war in Iraq exactly the same way you and Pierce.
Yeah, you're one track mind. Two things can be true at the same time. Israel bad and American actions supporting Israel bad, also bad. Is that too complicated for you? Oh, does he love them straw man? When he watches The Wizard of Oz and comments on, I'm so scared. It's like, a bit more. Oh, God.
But he was our government's lying to us. It wasn't about Israel. Why is everything that happens in the world the fall of Israel Day?
This is such a blatant straw man. I didn't say everything in the world is the fault of Israel. I'm saying they were also guilty of this.
But why are you putting the emphasis on them when George W. Bush...
I will say that seeing Konstantin act like this is reflecting that I often will do something similar. I don't think it's as egregious as what he's doing. But someone will say something, and I'll be, oh, Morty, woo, woo. When Morty doesn't eat, he farts really bad. So please... help us out. What the fuck was I just saying? You farted the thought right out of my head. What was he saying?
They were also guilty of this.
But why are you putting the emphasis on them when George W. Bush and Tony Blair were using their bully pulpits to make this point to a far wider audience?
I don't remember what I was saying, but yeah, two things can be wrong at the same time, and I'm jerking off during. He's jerking off during the Wizard of Oz.
Some guy in the Middle East called Benjamin Netanyahu.
If you think that I am removing any of the blame from George W. Bush,
kind of sounds like it.
Oh, I remember what I was saying. So, somebody will say something, and it is somewhat reasonable to, let's say, assume the line of logic. And so you're saying this, and I try to do that in good faith, in being like, so are you saying this? But it often, I realize that it often comes out as the same way Konstantin is doing, and seeing it like this really shows me, okay, you gotta be better at that, and be like, so are you saying, or to me that sounds like you're something like that, to instead of claiming that you're making this statement, because the reason for doing that, at least in my mind, is taking the line of logic that somebody's using and going to where it ends. So, if you're saying that this is the case, then the logic follows that this would be the case. And I got to get better at asking rather than stating that's what you think, because I'm watching this and I don't like what I'm seeing.
Yahoo.
If you think that I am removing any of the blame from George W. Bush
Kinda
or
sounds
Tony
like
Blair,
it.
I assure you you're wrong, and you don't know what you're talking about. I've been blasting them for years. They're war criminals who should
But whoa! You're not an expert, Dave, on your own opinions.
be in the Hague.
I agree.
That is not the issue. We are talking specifically about the nation of Israel right now, so I'm talking about their responsibility. And why is it, by the way, that this is always a one-way street? You know, I hear all the hawks
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I tell you when I told you? Exactly what.
He loves doing the bullshit. He's just not on this level. He's not on this level, and he is. There's definitely levels to this shit. You know, debating or whatever you want to call it. And you know, he's not somebody who doesn't know how to hold a conversation. But it's not in good faith, and it is very emotional.
Why is it, by the way, that this is always a one-way street? You know, I hear all the hawks constantly being like, Iran said this, Iran threatened this. What about the threats in the other direction? Maybe Iran feels like they don't have a choice. And so look, Muammar Gaddafi, Iran is on the list of 7 countries that are supposed to be overthrown. The U.S. government went and overthrew both of their next-door neighbors, invaded the countries and destroyed them after putting Iran on the axis of evil list when they had nothing to do with 9/11. And then when Muammar Gaddafi denuclearized, they went in there and overthrew him in the most violent, brutal way, was sodomized to death by a pack of madmen. Maybe Iran also feels that they can't get this one wrong. Why are we doing this? This is
Maybe Iran also feels like they can't get this wrong. So if two parties that are not us are in a situation that is a military situation, and they both feel like we have to do this, where does that implicate the United States of America? Where does that involve me as an American taxpayer at all? Oh, it doesn't.
a country that poses no threat to the United States of America. And if you guys want to try to hang on the fence here and go, hey, I'm not telling Americans what to do, I think Israel should do it on their own. But that's just a fantasy land.
Yup. And that's when I say let them handle it. I'm specifically saying fuck the allyship, because they're not being a good ally. Why do we have to be a good ally if they're not?
They're not doing it on their own. They're doing it with our weapons, with our intelligence support, with our money, with us protecting them from a retaliation strike, and, at least possibly, with our president using negotiations to dupe Iran into thinking that they weren't at risk. I mean, that's what Benjamin Netanyahu says, and that's what some other reporting says. Maybe that's not the case, but either way, he pretended like he was afterward. So no, none of this is being done without America. This is about a regime change war. All of them said it in their own words. They're on.
Ted Cruz started his conversation with Tucker as, yes, this is, I want regime change in Iran. That is a direct quote from Ted Cruz from 2 days ago. 1 day before this conversation.
This is about a regime change war. All of them said it in their own words. They're on record. Do you guys think Benjamin Netanyahu has been mistaken for 30 years, claiming that Iran is a year to 3 years away from a nuke? Or was he lying?
Well, I think, listen, I think the reality is the thing that struck me was going from 3% to 60%. Suggests an intent. It suggests an incontrovertible.
Or
no one
they're
disputes.
not the only country that does this.
But nobody disputes that Iran has gone from 3% to 60% in uranium enrichment,
yes.
right? So
That's correct.
that is all. Unlike with Saddam and the WMD that didn't exist, that is indisputable. It's just how you interpret what they're intending to do with that. And
There really are WMDs this time, guys. That's just not convincing to me. Call me ignorant, call me naive, but that is not convincing. Like I said, sodomized to death ain't a good way to go. It's shitty.
let me ask you.
Can I just one quick thing
Yeah.
on this? So first of all those regime wars you're talking about are the fault of the US and other Western governments
Correct. As Americans, that's why we are against them.
to pursue them. That's who's responsible. That's who should be to blame. And as you say, should be prosecuted for that.
And so they should be prosecuted, but also you want us to continue doing the exact same thing that in this moment you're saying we should be prosecuted.
What?
That don't make no sense.
But the reason people rightly call you a moral relativist, Dave, is that you don't seem to understand the difference between, yes, I think it's quite clear that Benjamin Netanyahu wants regime change in Iran, but that is not the same as the regime in Iran wanting to destroy Israel. There's a big difference. If the mullahs in Iran wanted a different prime minister of Israel, that is not the same as wanting to destroy their entire country.
Straw man.
And the reason Israel is
He's not happy. He's not
paranoid
amused
about
by
these
this.
things as it is, let's be honest, it's surrounded, or at least was until recently when opinion in many Arab countries changed towards Israel, thanks to President Trump's Abraham Accords. Israel was surrounded by many, many countries who don't believe that it has a right to exist. And that's the difference. And that's why people call you a moral relativist.
That would just make them incorrectly using the word.
Well, okay, well, that's totally ridiculous and makes no sense
Why?
at all. And it only works. I'm about to answer, Konstantin. Let me finish. Because it only makes
I don't like how much I'm seeing of myself in Konstantin, because I would do that too. So, well, it's not. Why? I've gotten better. Those of you who've been here for a while, hopefully seen it. But we don't got our flaws, right? So he said he wants to blame the CIA and U.S. intelligence for regime change, but takes zero accountability for Mossad. Epstein was a Mossad agent, but even more simply than that, he's like, yeah, all the regime change wars, the U.S. should be prosecuted for that. But this one's different. And just like with Ted Cruz, I was waiting to hear, okay, I don't know. You're the politician. You're the expert, so to speak. So tell me, what is the difference? So far, all I've heard is that it is different. How is it different? Why is that difference justification for us to go to war? DJ said, just for fun, where does that right to exist, specifically there, come from? Don't know. Luckbox said Ted Cruz is another neocon who just wants to carpet bomb any country he disagrees with. That's how he makes money.
makes sense when you only say, I ascribe the worst of intentions to this regime and the best of intentions to this. What was overthrowing Muammar Gaddafi? Was that simply replacing the leader, or was that destroying the country, turning it into a failed
You
state?
brought in a different conflict. Let's stick.
Right, different conflict, because you are saying that this is different from those other conflicts. So you were the one who created comparison. So if you want to create a comparison, then we got to bring in a different conflict, because you can't compare something to itself.
Stupid.
To Israel and Iran.
No.
You would before you were just like, why are you always talking about Iran? Why are you talking about Iran or Israel? Sorry, why are you all talking about Israel? No, let's stick to Israel. I mean, I don't think that is that projection. No, that's just hypocrisy. But I don't care. I don't fucking care. Dilly to this bullshit. Not quite a projection, but close enough. Quality said the same retards who called Dave a moral relativist think that dead Israeli civilians is a tragedy. Don't give two shits of a fuck about Palestinian children being butchered.
Bingo.
It's just team sports. It's just team sports. That's literally all it is.
No,
The Israelis say we want regime change. The Iranians say we want to wipe you off the map.
Oh, yeah. So
that's
I'm
pretty
the moral,
different.
Hold on. So I'm the moral relativist.
Yes.
But then when I point out what one side actually did, you run away from it and say, oh, no, we can't talk about
It's
that.
your
Talk about
government
something
that
else.
destroyed Libya. It's not Israel.
Constantine,
your
do you know
government.
anything about this? Israel.
Whoa. Can we just stick to Israel and Iraq, Konstantin? Come on. Now you're bringing in other conflicts.
Israel was lobbying for us to do this for years.
Who made the decision to do that?
Our government, and I hold them criminally responsible.
So blame them.
That's not a gotcha. We do blame them. That's what we're doing right now. Right at this moment. We're saying, U.S. government, we don't like what you're doing. I don't understand how you are not seeing that you are speaking out of both sides of your mouth. You think Kissin's argument against wokeness is also bad faith? Depends on how granular we're going to get with bad faith. Because in general, I would say yes, but we have to remember the difference between the semantic obfuscation and the linguistic creep. And so with the woke left, there was bad faith conversations about racism and trans and white supremacy and all that stuff. But then the people who listened to all that semantic obfuscation actually thought that, what was the example I used? Shaving your face is white supremacy. And so if they genuinely believe that, then it's not technically bad faith because they are saying what they do believe. They are representing their thoughts accurately. They're just really bad thoughts. So I would say no. I would just say he's wrong. It's not going well for him.
Who made the decision to do that?
Our government, and I hold them criminally responsible.
So blame them.
Yes, Konstantin, why are you an Israeli? Why are you constantly running cover for them?
Because I believe in speaking the truth and being honest instead of dragging in stuff that's irrelevant.
No. It's not irrelevant at all. What are you talking about? Yes, my government is criminally responsible for the war that they launched. And the Israeli government is also responsible for constantly trying to lure my government into more wars. That's what I'm standing up against right now.
So the American government is so gullible that they just go around invading countries on the say-so of Israel.
Yeah, it's gullibility. It has nothing to do with corruption. It has nothing to do with the fact that we have a deep state. We have the boomers who have been in power forever and don't give a flying fuck about constituency. It's just that America's gullible. Fuck you, Konstantin.
The American government is so gullible that they just go around invading countries on the say-so of Israel.
Again, what a stroke.
But I mean, kind of. It's not gullibility, but yeah, whatever Israel says goes.
Oh man, dude, Benjamin Netanyahu came to America in 2002 and testified before Congress that the U.S. should overthrow Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, and the Iranian regime. This isn't a secret. He's advocating that we fight more wars. And I'm telling you that this war, which we do not need to fight, which is not in our interest, has the potential to be devastating to our country, let alone the region. What is the moral relativism in any of that?
I'm not saying the Iranians are good people. One side wants to wipe the other one from the map. The other side wants not to have people who want to do that.
Why is that relevant? Why is that relevant to us? Oh, it's not. Quality said, Lecho, buddy, you have 2D arms. Just saying, guys, help me out. I need some push-ups, and I won't do them without you. Please check that swole goal at the top of the chat, right above the poll. 99 cents will do it. And, of course, every donation comes with a treat for the Overlord. 99 cents, guys. 99 cents. That's all
one side.
If there's 7 of you here, $2 from everybody will get us there.
What is the moral relativism in any of that?
I'm not saying the
Iranians are good people.
One side wants to wipe the other one from the map. The other side wants not to have people who want to do that in charge of that country.
But
that's the difference.
But Pierce, do you not get my? Let me just see, Pierce. Do you get my point here? This is what they said from the very beginning of the war in Gaza. Israel doesn't want to wipe Gaza off the map. Israel just wants to retrieve the hostages and get it. But they are wiping it off the map. So why do you just get to have this standard where you decide what they want to do? I can't base it on their track record. We can't look at Iraq. We can't look at Libya. We can't look at Afghanistan. Evidently, as all the hogs can see, we can look at World War II. Everything is just like World War II. But it's not like the last 25 years of terror wars.
Well, he's basically Hitler. And this is the wokeness aspect. This is the wokeness that history doesn't matter. Whatever is right now that helps my argument is the truth, is the only way. And if you disagree, you're not only bad, but you're wrong. Or, excuse me, you're not only wrong, but you're bad. You're a bad person.
These guys have wiped countries off the map left and right.
Well, as you know,
they've done. It's their track record.
Yeah, as you know, I've been increasingly critical of the Israel strategy in Gaza. It makes no sense until you hear people like Smodrich talking brazenly and openly about ethnic cleansing. I mean, it doesn't make any pretense. And at that point, I do think that there are certainly people on that in that government at senior level who absolutely want to get all the Palestinians out of Gaza, out of the West Bank. And if that has been their plan all along from October the 8th, then I was duped, and people that feared that were correct. And we'll have to see how that plays itself out. I hope that is not going to actually be the case, and that people who say on the Israeli side, they say to me, well, Smotrich isn't the government. Well, he's a pretty senior member of that government, and he's not even hiding what he thinks should be happening. Before we finish this, guys, I want to just talk about the politics here for Trump as well, because it's really interesting to me. Konstantin, you've got the conservative right in America absolutely split down the middle. You've got Tucker Carlson on one side, and a lot of people who agree with him that this could be a disaster for America, for Trump. He shouldn't be doing it. Obviously, Dave and Tucker Carlson, now unusual bedfellows on this, but there's always a first time for everything. But you also have a lot of people on the conservative right, Lindsey Graham, John Bolton, others who are absolutely gung-ho to get stuck into Iran here. Is there a danger that politically this really does fragment Trump's base support? And what does that mean for the Republicans, for MAGA, for Trump, for the future, for J.D. Vance and people who are aligned with Trump maybe at the next election and so on?
I think we're going to see a complete reversal of the Overton window shift that we saw over the last 10 years. I think the Democratic Party itself is going to dwindle to nothing, and the Republican Party is going to split into the GOP and MAGA.
Well, I should preface this by saying I'm an outsider observer in the United States.
No, you don't say.
I do go there a lot. I spend a lot of time there. I speak to people there, but I certainly wouldn't claim to be, the greatest.
You've been
expert in the world about what's happening in America. My sense, unexpert sense of this, is that actually I think your presentation of it is a very online focused presentation. I think if you look at the polling, the vast majority of people in America are basically in the position I described earlier, which is they don't want Iran to get anywhere near or continue to get closer to developing nuclear weapons, and they don't want American boots on the ground.
Appeal to consensus, appeal to the majority, whatever the fuck it's called. Just because a lot of people say a thing doesn't make it right or true.
And that's the dilemma that Donald Trump has to navigate. And if he can do that...
Well, there's a third dilemma. You see, this is...
Little fucking moth got in here.
This is where it gets more complicated, because I don't think he's even thinking about boots on the ground. But I do think he is thinking, probably as we speak, about whether he allows an American B-52 to take a 30,000-pound bomb and drop it on the nuclear sites, which Israel hasn't got the ability to get to.
Yeah.
I think that is probably...
So let's be honest.
More likely than not right now.
So
I missed this one earlier when Equality's making fun of my arms. And giving the example, so if you hire a hitman to kill people, then it's not your fault. Psst. We, America, is hiring the hitman of Israel to kill Iran. We're responsible. Doesn't mean that Israel's not. But we are.
To be honest,
what he may order.
If that happens and it's successful and it doesn't lead to an escalation, everyone's going to love it because Americans love to win and they love to bomb shit, right? Let's be honest. That's the history of the last 20 years.
Let's be honest.
And if that happens, they'll be very happy. And if it goes in a different direction, they will be very unhappy. So you're right. It's a big call. I don't think anyone sitting here or frankly anywhere knows how it's actually going to play out.
Then why are you pushing us into a thing that you don't know what's going to happen? I don't need to be a geopolitical expert to understand that that is a very relevant question.
Or whether it's a good idea. And, I'm not sitting here advocating for that necessarily. I think Israel seems to be doing enough damage to significantly degrade any attempts Iran is making to have a nuclear enrichment program. And I hope that's the thing that we pursue. By the way, I don't think it's split MAGA down the middle at all. That's what it appears like on X. I really don't think when you talk to ordinary people, that's the situation in America, especially.
Okay, so you don't think it as an outsider and a self-avowed non-expert, but we should listen to you.
In the Republican Party, which is overwhelmingly pro-Israel and has been for a very long time.
Okay, Dave Smith.
There's no question. I mean, I largely agree with Konstantin there. I think if Trump can thread the needle here and not lead to a catastrophe, that he can survive this politically. I do think he's downplaying the split a little bit. It's not just about like polls about how people feel about boots on the ground, which obviously the American people are largely opposed to. And yes, it is true that most of the Republicans do support Israel, although poll after poll has demonstrated that this is really changing with the younger generation. But look, I mean, you have a situation right now, and yesterday, like I started the day by denouncing Donald Trump, and I was, taking a lot, trending on Twitter and getting a lot of praise and a lot of insults and all that stuff. But by the end of the day, it was like Tucker Carlson was being insulted by Donald Trump for not even criticizing him, really just criticizing the policy while heaping praise on Donald Trump. But Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, I mean, some of the most influential conservative voices in the United States of America have all come out and really drawn a red line that we do not want to have another war here. So the point is that if it does get to that, and that's a big if, but if it does come to that point, like a real boots on the ground war, Donald Trump will absolutely destroy his coalition and his legacy along with it.
I would be off the Trump train if we have boots on the ground in any other country that isn't directly attacking us. CT said he thinks Americans love to bomb shit. He's so insulting with zero facts. We want people to be charged with war crimes. Exactly. You're sitting across from Dave Smith of all of the Americans. He's got to be at least in the top 20 percentile of anti-war people. And so like that's a nice way to not a nice way, but I mean a cute way to talk about the fact that the military industrial complex in America, world police, that all is real. But we all fucking hate it. It's the actual politicians that want this shit, and people don't know enough about it. So they just go along because they play team sports. The red guy said it's good, so therefore it's good. But as we are seeing, people are split. This is online. Where do you think the people who actually care about this stuff talk about it? Online.
As well as his entire domestic agenda. I mean,
just to type on that. That's why I really don't appreciate when people use, well, Twitter's not real life as a cop-out. Like, it is, though. It's not the same as talking to a group of other people. We all know there's bots and shit, but it is what people think.
Destroy his coalition and his legacy along with it, as well as his entire domestic agenda. I mean, you need as much political capital as you can get when there's people out on the streets protesting against his immigration policies. And he's risking squandering all of this for something that's absolutely no threat to the United States of America at all, on the side of the country who secretly developed nukes and is not in the non-proliferation treaty, against the country who doesn't have nukes and is in the non-proliferation treaty. It's the most reckless madness a policy could possibly be.
Konstantin.
Well, he's not pursuing that policy. This is what the point I keep making to Dave. What you keep doing, Dave, is taking to the extremist position. No one's talking about boots on the ground except the usual Lindsey Grahams, who no one in the Trump cabinet takes seriously on these issues at all.
I don't know about that.
They don't. The conversation that's happening is about what is the right level of America's involvement. We will see what that is. And by the way, look, I haven't seen Charlie Kirk, who is genuinely influential, I think, within the MAGA movement, criticize President Trump. I think he's been kind of balanced in his commentary. All the other people, the Candace Owenses, the Tucker Carlsons, etc., the vast majority of people within the conservative movement.
That's to say the Tucker Carlsons and the Candace Owenses. Like, that's not a group. That's not a group. Those are two different people. What are you talking about? Wokeness.
America are not taking their opinion on this issue, and the polls bear that out.
Tucker, though,
well, I would say
Tucker, I think, is a significant voice.
These people have huge audiences.
Well, I'm not saying they don't have huge audiences, but I'm saying a lot of those audiences are not within the conservative movement.
Right, but when Tucker chewed up,
what does that have to do with anything? Oh, they're not influential because the people that listen to them don't already agree with them, so they might have different ideas, but they're not influential. How do you do this and not realize what you're doing?
Ted Cruz, for example, and did
a little smirk
pretty skillfully, I have to say, made Cruz look pretty ill-informed about Iran. That's got a massive amount of mainstream media attention today. I think that you can't ignore. I mean, it's interesting to me. Look at the split. The MAGA names against Trump: Candace Owens, you, Dave, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Alex Jones, Matt Walsh, Tucker Carlson, obviously. Then you got the ones for Charlie Kirk's been pretty balanced, like you said, Lindsey Graham, Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, Mark Levine. I mean, I've not seen that kind of split on many issues.
Right. So even if you want to say like, "Oh, mine isn't real life," then those people that are listed are real people that do have real influence. And so, fine, maybe there's an aspect of people who are not in the online political world feel differently about this, but that doesn't really address the point that the people who are interested in this are split on it. You're saying they're not split because other people who don't pay attention, are in agreement on something? What does that even mean? What does that amount to?
And this is potentially the biggest issue of all.
Can I just
said Mark Levine is a wackadoodle. Fair enough.
Just even responding to what Konstantin just said, because I thought I made this point pretty clear at the beginning, but let me try to make it clear. You can sit here and say nobody's talking about boots on the ground all you want to. This whole thing is about a regime change, and all of the major players have admitted this in their own words. Even Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't saying that Iran was on the cusp of having nuclear weapons.
Yeah, but he never said that we need American troops to be there. You know, like the liberals who will say that, what's a good example? I don't fucking know. But we talk about Biden and his quid pro quo or all these things. Well, he didn't actually say it directly, or Akil Abrego Garcia. He doesn't have MS-13 tattooed on his forehead. I mean, if that's the level that you're engaging with reality, I feel sorry for you.
Regime change. But that could be regime change, as we saw in Syria towards the end of last year in December,
Syria.
when after a long and bloody and awful civil war, suddenly the downfall of Assad happened incredibly quickly, and it didn't involve boots on the ground.
How is Syria doing today?
Conventional sense. It involved actual Syrian boots from civilians.
That's right.
That's right. And they were able to. That's why I see. You know, I don't think it can be ruled out that if enough Iranian people feel that their regime has been humiliated, has actually been exposed for not being able to hit back in the way they've always vowed to, feel that they're weak and disgraced and so on, you know, why couldn't there be an uprising like we saw in Syria at the end of last year? I don't think it can be ruled out completely.
Well, I mean, listen. So, Pierce, just to be clear, because you are right about that, there are the models like Libya and Syria where it didn't require long occupations and nation building, and all you got was a failed state with open-air slave markets, a massive refugee crisis into Europe, and now you have Al-Qaeda in charge of Syria. And excuse me, as an American, my beef is with Al-Qaeda, not
but he's
with Hezbollah.
He is not. Look,
I said shit. Me too. Dilly to that. Guys, we are coming up on the 2-hour mark. If you would like to keep the party raging, where the fuck did I put it? You guys know exactly how to do it.
Excuse me, as an American, my beef is with Al-Qaeda, not
but he's
with
not.
Hezbollah.
He is not. Look, he is not behaving like a member of Al-Qaeda. Now he's the leader of the country. He appears to be.
Oh, so that's okay.
I'm not taking any.
All right.
I'm not. Listen, I don't take any. As Donald Trump once says, I don't trust anyone. Right. So let's see.
But I'm not saying trust.
Let's see how it plays out.
Trust here. Hold on, Pierce. I'm not saying trust. This man was fighting against America in the Iraq War,
I know his
part
history.
of the insurgents, killing our boys.
I know. But
so why am I supposed to care about?
No, but
the
then
people who
Nelson
kill
Mandela.
Israelis, but then I'm supposed to make up with.
Nelson Mandela was on the UK's prescribed terror list under Margaret Thatcher, and went on to become one of the greatest people in history and led his country to a more unified place. In other words, Trump is taking a bet that this new leader in Syria actually is a reformed character. And certainly so far, you would have to say that the signs are reasonably encouraging, given the apocalyptic feelings that some people had, that he would simply be Mr. Al-Qaeda, presiding over complete mayhem.
And one thing is worth asking.
Yeah, right. Quality. Not to mention, didn't we give about $90 billion worth of hardware to terrorists in Afghanistan? Indeed, we did. Something that MAGA and even a lot of Democrats have been very upset about. But that doesn't matter to Konstantin, because that's online speak.
Adding, by the way, on this is that Iran has a history. Iran, just a quick point, Dave, very quick. Iran has a history of 25 years or maybe 26 years of living in a secular and relatively liberal free society. So the people of Persia have a very different history to the countries you're talking about. This is not to say that regime change or the change of a regime does not lead to catastrophe. I mean, and
there's no obvious, someone wrote a very good piece about this. There is no obvious savior waiting in the wings other than the Shah's son, who is a quite divisive character. I've interviewed him, I like him personally, but divisive character. But there's no like Mandela figure that you could point to and say is waiting in the wings to potentially come and rescue Iran. That person so far hasn't been identified.
Can I just make a couple quick points on this? Okay, so like number one, we launched 25 years of what they are dubbed forever wars on the justification that Al-Qaeda came over here and murdered innocent American citizens. And now I'm supposed to make up with Al-Qaeda and forgive them for that because he put on a three-piece suit while I focus on Israel's enemies. I just find
I'm good.
this to be like a crazy ask of the American people. And then, look, it's real easy to sit here and say, oh yeah, they had a strong tradition of liberalism and everything's going to work out this time. For the first time, we're going to have a regime change that's going to work out really smoothly. Iran is so weak. The people hate them so much. This regime has been in power since 1979, spending the vast majority of that time having the most powerful governments in the history of the world, hell-bent on ousting this regime.
And not to mention, they've done so quite brutally.
They've survived this long. Maybe you guys are right this time. But Piers, come on, man. I mean, you remember the mission accomplished banners. You remember when they had...
Qualities leaving. We got just a few minutes left of this before we head to my Andrew Wilson thing. But if you gotta go, you gotta go. You have a good one.
The first elections in Iraq, and it even fooled Jon Stewart, and he was celebrating, I guess George W. Bush was right. And then we went on to the most brutal and bloody 8 years of civil war that saw 1 million innocent people die. The country absolutely destroyed, massive displacements and horror stories. And so, it's like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, and maybe it'll make you a little bit uncomfortable, but the amount of people celebrating this thing 4 or 5 days into it, like, oh my God, Israel took out all their targets. Look how easy it was.
Exactly. That confidence of what is going to happen. Because there is the idea that Iran is bad. We don't want Iran to have weapons. Therefore, everything that happens is okay because it worked. When you're bringing up Syria, Libya, Yemen, like CT St. Piers actually saying the civil war in Syria with Al-Qaeda taking over is honest and we weren't involved. I don't know if that was his point. I'm not really sure what his point was, because everything that either of them is saying leads me back to what is the reason? I'm open to hearing that there is a reason that we need to be supporting this, that Israel can't do it on their own, that, but I need to hear that reason. And everybody's going on these shows and celebrating this and saying how important it is, but not telling us why. I want to be on your team. I want to be on the right side of history, right? I don't want to have the wrong answer, if only for selfish reasons. If only for selfish reasons. I mean, it's more than that, but even if it was just that, I want to be right. So give me a reason as to why you're right, and then I'll agree that you're right.
We've been here before. I've seen this movie.
I'll be honest with you, Dave. As someone who's not pushing regime change or American involvement, as I've said, in the way that you...
But you are, because it's been established that that's what this is, and you're supporting it. So that is precisely what you're doing.
You think people are trying to do. I am celebrating the fact that Iran is no longer enriching uranium to 60%. I think that is worth celebrating. I think that's a good thing.
Yet another straw man.
I think we should all be relieved that that's happening.
Yeah, I kind of agree. But I think,
and to Dave's point, maybe in 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, maybe there's something that this plays out the way it even plays out the way it's supposed to, and then it does something good for America. Maybe, but to act as if you know that at this point is ridiculous.
Also, we should be concerned about the risks.
But I also agree
maybe
with Dave Smith when he says this could go horribly wrong.
But that's what
I do.
Okay, fine. So if you're saying it could go horribly wrong or it could be great, before we know which one of those it is, we should be in stasis. Why are we doing anything unless we know which one of those it's going to be? Now, obviously, with war and stuff, you're never going to know for sure what's going to happen. But you have reasons to point to this, that, and that. And all of the reasons seem to point to the fact that we should not be doing this, because when we do, it ends badly.
But that's what we're all saying. I'm saying that too.
Yeah, I agree.
This is war. Like, no one knows how it's going to turn out exactly.
I agree. I mean,
that's why you don't fight wars of choice.
Well, I've gone as far as saying I think
that's why you don't fight wars of choice. I mean, what is the argument? What is the argument? They're bad. Lots of bad people. You just want to kill all of everybody who doesn't agree with you? What
I think that unlike the Iraq war in 2003, I feel like this seems a justified action by Israel to protect its people from what is clear fast-moving acceleration of uranium by a lethal enemy that is wedded to territories all over its border that want to kill it. I understand that. It seems justified. Now, does that mean I think it's going to work and isn't going to cause huge problems? No. And I think the jury is very firmly out on that. And it's going to be an extremely fascinating and turbulent few weeks and months ahead. And I think right now, Donald Trump, probably the loneliest man in the world, sitting in the White House, working out what does he actually do now. And if he does press the button on attacking Iran, that will go really against pretty much everything he said, other than specifically Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. But in terms of starting a war in the Middle East, that is really antithetical against everything he's said he stands for. So
yeah, like this whole what happened to the art of the deal? What happened to I'm such a great negotiator? Great negotiators don't need to kill people to get what they want.
It's a really interesting, momentous decision for Donald Trump to be taking, and the consequences could be enormous. But gentlemen, I've really enjoyed this debate. Thank you both for agreeing to do it. I think it was constructed in the right tone. We didn't descend into ad hominem attacks.
I mean, not directly.
Can I just say I have a much bigger penis than you, Piers, and you, Dave.
That's actually almost certainly not true. But we
A
will
reference to the
leave
George
it.
Galloway episode yesterday.
Dave,
All right, that was funny. That was funny. That was funny. Good callback. Good callback. All right, well, I mean, since this is over and we have something else to check out, we're going to do that, and then we're going to head to the after party. So what we're going to do here is, so this is part one, 25 minutes. This is part one of the, part one of 5, and maybe more, because we did stuff with Rachel Wilson as well. If you didn't know, this is Gabe the Thy Pawn in Discord. Again, guys, definitely come and join us. Actually, let's do that real quick. Let's take a little, in case you don't know, now you gonna know. If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our Disciple chat for members only, our Word of the Day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join. There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there. And of course, remember, guys, if you join while the stream is still going for another few minutes, then even though the after party is for members only, you will get a night pass to come and hang out. It's free. It's free. And that's really what this is all about. I mean, you know, obviously we have the show, and I want to talk to you guys about all this stuff. And I really enjoy coming hanging out with you guys, and hopefully, you know, make a little bit of money to elevate the show and all that stuff. But the real purpose is to get you guys into that community, because once we can come together and have a coalition of people who don't all think the same thing, but are all on the same page of wanting to improve America and improve our political landscape and all of that stuff. Even if we don't agree on how, we can work together to figure out what ways do work and what ways don't. So definitely join. The link, again, is pinned to the top of the chat. That is absolutely free, so you always will have access to that free channel. For tonight, you get access to the whole thing, and for just $2.99 a month, half the cost of a cup of coffee, you get 12 after parties, and we are hanging out 24/7 in there. It's anytime I wake up in the middle of the night, I feel the urge to go, anybody talking on Discord? And sometimes there is, and I can stay for another few hours. You guys are fun. You guys are fun. All right. So let's check this out. I'm not gonna do the whole thing, because I'm gonna wait until part 2 comes out, and then we're just going to do a whole stream of all 5, and then another stream when the rest come out. So I just want to show off me, if nothing else, to prove that this did actually happen. I told you guys it happened. I didn't know when it was coming, but here we are.
Knowledgeable wisdom to be unwise as an option. And then we
Do you
didn't
take medication by chance?
medication.
Mhm.
Oh, not at all. Unless I'm breathing air. That's a certain type of
Okay.
medication I'm
All
happy
right.
with. I mean, I desire truth as
I literally just don't have any idea what the hell you're talking about. Like, I
That's-
can't follow even what you're saying.
All right, fine. We'll watch games as well.
We don't stone people to death. We don't kill people for not being virgins on their wedding day. What do you think that is?
What the hell does that have to do with my claim? If a politician, right, you vote him in office, he's a Christian. He's going to be making moral decisions on behalf of the electorate, right?
Right.
Where do you want him to? Where do you want him to draw his
Christian?
information from?
From the electorate. So with
What?
the electorate's not all religious.
What if the electorate asks him to do something immoral?
What if God asked you to do something immoral? All right, I think we're at 10 something. And then, this fucking fuck. So we're in this this banquet room at the hotel that the debate con was at, right? And so it's this giant room, and you could tell from just what we're hearing so far that he's quite calm and talk. This is like 9 a.m. Everybody was drinking the night before and all that stuff. So the later parts are going to be, we wake up a little bit, but so like, let's say if this is the whole room, right? They're set up down in this corner, and when you see him, I should play that part too. When you see him give the prompt, that's the only time that it's mentioned. And so I'm across the room, and look what he does.
2 men.
So what was the claim again?
You don't remember the claim? It's
You don't remember the claim? No, I didn't hear the claim. So everything that you're about to see is just in that moment. So let me actually have him read the prompt.
My name is Andrew Wilson, host of The Crucible, popular entertainment channel on YouTube.
He's barely more than mumbling.
And today I'm going to be debating 5 different people on 5 different topics for 5 minutes. My first topic will be Christians have as much of a right to rule as secularists.
Christians have as much a right to rule as secularists. Something I don't disagree with. So you'll see that a lot of this is figuring out, okay, how do we move this conversation to something that we indeed actually do disagree about? Fuck you. Fuck you.
You too, man.
Hey, shout out to Dylan Soup coming at the last minute to catch the exclusive. Welcome. Actually, what should I do here? Okay, I'm gonna redo that. I just wanna, I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna kind of restart this as if, because I'm gonna clip this out. So when was this? DebateCon was. Do you guys remember when this actually was? Whatever. All right. Few months ago, I was at DebateCon 5 in New Jersey, and I got to sit down and debate Andrew Wilson in a 5 versus 1 type of Jubilee-style debate, with the first prompt being Christians have as much right to rule as secularists. And that was something that I never disagreed with. And he decided that even though he's the blood sport debater, even though he knew the prompts the day before, he had to make sure all of us had no idea what it was until the moment we sat down. This is that conversation.
So what was the claim again?
I don't remember the claim. It's that.
Didn't hear the claim. I was on the other side of the room. But hey, you know what? Good underhanded tactic to make me look stupid unjustly to start off.
That Christians have as much of a right to rule as secularists or atheists.
Okay, I'm a little confused as to why that. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that. What part do you think
think that a lot of people would disagree with it?
I think
Then why do they get upset when Christians are in office and they make policy based on Christianity?
because they make policy based on Christianity.
So now we see it's not about being Christian. It's about basing policy on Christianity.
The fact that they are Christian.
Well, okay. How do you want a Christian to morally inform their view for policy making if it's not through Christianity?
I'm not saying that it can't be through Christianity. It can't be because of Christianity.
Why?
Because it's not a Christian nation.
Yeah. What does that have to do with anything? If a politician, right, you vote him in office, he's a Christian. He's going to be making moral decisions on behalf of the electorate, right?
Right.
So what it has to do with your prompt is that you're presenting as if I'm saying that we can't have any Christians in office, when that is not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying the Christians that are in office can't just say, because the Bible says that is the law.
Right?
Where do you want him to?
All those
where do you want him to draw his information from?
From the electorate. So with the electorate's not all religious.
What if the electorate asks him to do something immoral?
Well, then that's completely different.
All right, then he should be informing his viewpoint from his ethics, which is going to be Christianity, right?
Remember, I said I didn't disagree with you.
It's not a dichotomy. You don't either have Christian ethics or completely non-Christian. You can take your Christian ethics and apply them to a secular situation. No.
Sure, you can apply.
Okay, then we agree. I win. What are we talking about?
Your Christian ethics to secularists,
so
but that would be ruling secularists with Christian ethics.
Right, but then we agree that there's no issue with Christians or seculars having power.
No, I don't think we do agree. So your idea here,
he's not caught up yet. It took him a minute, but eventually he understands.
Is you take issue if Christians make policy based on Christianity.
No, because of Christianity. This is the law because Christianity says, not I am a Christian. I think this is bad. And also other people who are not Christians also think it is bad.
Let's say that other people who aren't Christians.
Well, but okay. So you guys know that's my pet peeve. I just made a very clear point and you're just going to brush right by it. Why? Because it makes a lot of sense and goes to show how stupid your prompt is.
This is the law because Christianity says, not I am a Christian. I think this is bad. And also other people who are not Christians also think it is bad.
Let's say that other people who aren't Christians do think it's bad.
We go back to the electorate. What does the electorate say?
We're but the politicians
so if the electorate happens to be Christian, then
why is there a problem
with ethics in politics?
Why is there a problem with the creation of an imposition of your ethical view if you're in a position of power on people who don't want it?
For the same reason you wouldn't want Sharia law.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
But right now we have secularists who tear down 10
Not going to address that either. I'm not going to address how you would feel about Sharia law.
Commandments. They tear down prayer in school. They tear down all sorts of symbols that Christians care about. They tear down, in fact,
based on
the
electorate.
They push
right?
through. No, not just based on the electorate.
Okay, then based on what? People want that. They vote for that, and the politicians do that. I agree that some of the stuff that is voted for is bad and shouldn't be enacted, but that's what politics do, and that's what politicians are supposed to do. Go to their electorate and do what they want.
On their agenda. There's a lot of things that people will get politicians get put in office, right? By an electorate. Sometimes maybe they're only going to go for one term, or maybe it's their last term. They don't do anything based on what the electorate's saying, but based on their own ideology, based on their own worldview.
Okay. So politicians just do whatever they want, and it has nothing to do with the people that voted for them. So I could definitely agree that there's an aspect of that. But if you're trying to make the argument that politicians can ignore their electorate completely and be successful, then I disagree with that. We could talk about that, but that wasn't your prompt.
So they're just doing things randomly that nobody.
Sometimes, but atheists.
I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter, the point is that is irrelevant to whether it is done because of Christianity. If they're doing things on their own because because they think it's a good idea, and then secularly from a Christian perspective, people can say, yes, I like that. That's a good idea. But people from a secular non-religious people can also say, I think that's a good idea. And as an electorate, as a non-Christian nation, or not officially a Christian nation, obviously most people are Christian in this nation, but not everybody.
So of course we have the 10 commandments, thou shalt not kill. But that's not the only reason that we have laws against murder. Other people who don't use the 10 commandments also don't want murder. And then we vote for that. And then it becomes law. Politics.
And so that's the point of having the republic, that everybody.
When somebody says something's right and wrong, Where are they getting that information?
So now we're pivoting to, well, where's your objective morality?
I think I agree with you. Even as an atheist, I think we all, at least in America, are pulling from Christian, I'll say values.
Yeah, Christian ethics.
Yeah. But so
if Christians,
but that's the dichotomy that I was bringing up before. You're saying as if you have to ignore Christianity in order to be a politician. I don't think anybody's making that claim.
No. I'm saying that politicians rule from atheism or rule from Christian ethics. They either rule from a lack of religion or.
That's the false dichotomy. No, that is not necessarily the case, because there is nothing from atheism. That doesn't mean anything. There's no values that are espoused by atheism. Atheism is merely the lack of a belief in a god or gods. And as I'm saying, I have respect for Christian values. I'm not one of these leftist, blue-haired, whatever, that says we need to get rid of all this stuff. That's not me. That's not me. That doesn't make me any less of an atheist. And it proves the point that he, like many other Christians, just see atheists as one group because they, Christians, are a group. And it's just like, oh, well, they're a group, so we're a group. They must be a group too. That's not how it works. An atheist will draw from other things, other moral philosophies from Christianity. That doesn't mean that they believe in it. And even though there are things that a secular person can agree with from the Bible, from the scripture, from Christian ethics, doesn't mean that that alone is a justification to put it into law, because other people might not like it. And even though me and Andrew agree that Christian ethics are good for society, that doesn't mean that it's justified to make laws based on scripture
or through religious informed ethics.
So, I mean, and then still, I don't have an issue with your Christian ethics informing your secular decision, that this is the law.
No, how about your Christian ethics informing your Christian decision in the rule of policy?
If you want to change, that's exactly what I'm saying. No to a Christian decision because of a Christian policy because of a Christian decision. He's mixing up the ethics with the scripture. Be nice to other people is a Christian ethic. That's not the same thing as thou shalt not, wear two different types of cloth.
Change the government to be a Christian nationalist government.
How would that be changing the government?
Because it's not a Christian nationalist government. Have I been living under a rock? I'm pretty sure America is not a Christian nation, or a Christian nationalist nation.
Because that's not the way it is.
Yes, it is. The way of the government right now is that you can indeed craft policy based around Christian ethics. When you say because of Christianity, it doesn't mean anything.
No, it doesn't mean anything to you because you don't understand what I'm saying, and your prompt is really bad. And I only had 5 minutes, and you, for some reason, needed to hide the prompts to yourself, even though you're the blood sport debater. These weaselly little atheists, you couldn't let them know what you were thinking, so we're just off the dome. And you've been thinking about this all day, and still you can't even stay on your own topic. Come on, man.
Oh, my morals come from Christianity because of the Bible. It's like, yeah. So what, though? I don't understand what the distinction.
Right. You don't understand. You're the one who doesn't understand. I think my point is pretty damn clear.
Distinction here is
the distinction is the reason. The reason that this is a law. I think this is
what's a law?
Whatever the law is. You might think X is a good law because it aligns with your Christian ethics. I might think X is a good law because of whatever other reason. The fact that your Christian ethics also inform us to the same conclusion. The point is that we come to the conclusion, we vote on that conclusion. Not you have your ideology and therefore you win.
Nobody's disputing that atheists can sometimes agree with Christians, or that Christians can sometimes agree with atheists when it comes to prescriptive claims and policy. Okay. That's not my claim.
Your claim is really stupid. So we're trying to talk about something else.
Nice person, please.
All right. Thank you.
And that's all we got. That was all we got. 5 minutes is not enough time. I mean, big shout out to Modern Day Debate and Uncensored America and Andrew Wilson and the Crucible for doing this. It was a good experience. But the prompts were just not good. And with only 5 minutes and not having any preparation as to, okay, I agree with this prompt, so I need to move the conversation to somewhere where we disagree. Otherwise, we'll just be like, yep, agreed. So, and I only have 5 minutes. Whereas if you had given me the prompts even half an hour before I sat down, then I could have been able to be like, okay, well, I agree with this, but let's talk about this instead. And you'll see that in all the rest of the parts. So definitely check out the full thing from Modern Day Debate. It is on the channel now. I did share it on my community tab. And if you are new here, please do hit that like button, subscribe. I am live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. See you there. See you there. All right. 217. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Oh, well, whatever. All right, so let's watch Gabe's, and then it's time for the after party.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, shout out to Gabe, who is a Discord member. So if you would like to talk to the gentleman who is up next with Andrew, join for free.
Greetings, Andrew.
Hello.
Gabriel speaking. So, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not going to make fun of him.
Yeah, I think that it's that Christians have as much right to rule as secularists or atheists.
So my answer is going to be yes, but no. We need to understand, we need to see to its fullest extent of what is Christian ethics in its totality, not because of a different sect of denomination, but we need to actually be precise because there's going to be consequences from each decision we make, which is self-evident with type of nation we live in today, where you have certain conservative Christians claim to be this nation is good, great, and greatest, but can that be tested? And if it were to be tested and it's proven that it's actually evil and corrupt.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I missed some of these. So, yeah, exactly. Like Brock said, I don't take Andrew seriously as a Christian, though. I just feel it's dogma. I get that Christianity is a way of weaponizing those who heavily disagree with your political views, but it's phony.
Bingo.
Agreed. CG said, I always thought that Andrew Wilson was a bad faith debater. Sorry, you had to experience it firsthand. I don't think I don't think that was bad faith. I think there's a thin line between being very good at controlling or driving the conversation and being in bad faith. Because I believe that he genuinely didn't understand what I was saying. I believe that in his mind, whatever the prompt was, and if you watch the video, then you'll with the other people, you'd see that he does kind of follow through with this with this line of thinking, but it's just wrong. So I don't necessarily think that's bad faith. I just again with Konstantin, like it's not necessarily bad faith. He's just wrong.
Were to be tested and it's proven that it's actually evil and corrupt, because what is the doctrine, dogmas, for example, the Declaration of Independence. I don't support the Declaration of Independence because it seems to be that's not the kingdom of God nor any representation of that.
Yes, he is an atheist.
Because it seems to be.
Or at least that's what, I don't know. I mean, it could be a Jordan Peterson thing, but I don't remember the specific conversation we had after the fact. But, he was carrying around a Bible and he talks a lot about God and all that stuff. But he is here as one of the atheists.
That's not the kingdom of God nor any representation of that, because it seems to be a declaration of dependence, proclamation in freedom versus proclamation in kingdom. Why? Because there's an actual leader, a king thereof kings. There's a reason behind that.
What the hell are you talking about, dude?
Well,
I have no idea what you're even talking about.
Hey, look,
sorry, Gabe. I don't either. And this is why I brought up again, we were talking about this in Discord. And I think Gabe has some really good ideas. It's just the way of articulating them. It's difficult, especially in a 5-minute, thing. If you have these big ideas, then getting them out in a way that makes sense to other people is difficult. And so that's why I think studying syllogisms and how to create an argument like that, even in a situation where this is not necessarily a debate like you would see a normal debate from him, but it is it's that contentious discussion, that being able to not only quickly categorize your own thoughts, but also categorize the opponent's thoughts will help anyone.
What the hell are you talking about, dude?
Well, I have
no idea what you're even talking about.
Hey, look, I understand. Look,
yeah.
To me, it seems like if Christians were to rule and were to lead, my question is, what type of Christian? Because obviously secular humanism, their fundamental foundation, their doctrinal substance cannot sustain.
We just started with something simple.
Agreed. if anybody needs to hear it, as an atheist, secular humanism will not work. Secular humanism is a great way to determine what is and what is right and what is wrong from a secular standpoint. But a moral structure has to have an incentive to do what is right. And unfortunately, secular humanism does not do that. If you already want to be a good person, then secular humanism is great. But as we can see, Christian, secular, or otherwise, not always the case.
Their fundamental foundation, their doctrinal substance cannot sustain.
What if we just started with something simple like the 10 Commandments?
The 10 Commandments? My question would be, are there anything prior to the 10 Commandments that we have to account for? And if we don't do that,
I'm sure there's things prior that you'd have to account for, but let's just say that we started with that.
Well, it has to come, well, there has to be, if we account for the 10 Commandments, we need to know the reason why behind each commandment itself, from the beginning to the end. So we have the totality of reason that is logical and rational to persuade people to submit themselves to obedience, to uphold that all the way through their life. But as for this nation, we don't do that. There's problems with freedom in itself because you're allowing free will domain with corrupt individuals where technically we're basically children who has been given an unlawful, knowledgeable wisdom to be unwise as an option. And then
I can see that there is a through line. I'm just not getting it.
You take medication by chance?
Medication? Oh, not at all. Unless I'm breathing air. That's a certain type of medication I'm happy with. I mean, I desire truth at its fullest.
I literally just don't have any idea what the hell you're talking about. Like, I can't follow even what you're saying.
Okay. So should Christians rule instead of secular humanism? Yes, but no. There's a contingency plan behind that. I say yes to a Christian, but how can I trust that Christian when his Christian ethics are corrupt along the way or has been corrupt from the very beginning?
Notice how Andrew is not talking a lot. And that is a very, very purposeful decision because he knows he's just going to run out the clock and he's going to look good. And so this is one of those situations where just to let your opponent have enough rope to hang themselves with. But like if he was, that is bad faith. That is bad faith. Because if he was genuinely trying to understand, then what did you say?
That I say yes.
So there has to be a contingency plan behind that. Be like, okay, so what do you mean by a contingency plan?
To a Christian, but how can I trust that Christian when his Christian ethics are corrupt along the way or has been corrupt from the very beginning? Because
and so again, he could jump in there. So like, okay, so you're talking about corruption that just because you're a Christian doesn't necessarily mean that you are right and even following Christian ethics. But it's just like, yo, you got this.
That Christian,
but that would just apply to anybody. How can you trust anybody? Anybody their ethics could have been corrupted along the way. Anybody could have a problem with X, Y, and Z.
But if they call themselves a Christian, well, then that fixes all.
What?
And that really doesn't have anything to do with anything, though, right?
Well,
why draft any law? I mean, some people are going to violate them.
Well, the point of a law is to be true.
No, that's not the point of a law. Is to be true.
Yes, to have a true sense of what is truth, that is good, that is deemed to be applied on the individual.
Who straw man on who? On me?
Groups of,
I mean, if I'm straw manning him, it's certainly not on purpose. I'm just trying to understand.
Is good that is deemed to be applied on the individuals, groups of individuals in this domain.
So you should stop at a stop sign is true?
Because, and for the cause and effect, it depends. Stop adding at a stop sign. You're not only taking care of yourself, you're taking care of people around you.
But isn't it also true that you can blow through a stop sign and nothing happens?
Then you because of your failure and nothing happens, you were lucky that something you avoided.
So it sounds like laws are there to restrict behavior based on outcomes that could be bad.
Correct. And it can be prevented.
But that really doesn't have anything to do with a truth claim exactly, does it?
Well, it does play a part of truth.
Yeah, like if we had a law that said when you walked indoors to this particular building, you have to take your hat off. If you left your hat on, what would be the negative consequence of that?
Well, why would they have the law in the first place? Would be courtesy.
Let's just say they do.
Well, it should care. And that's my point. Either it's 100% or it's nothing.
Yeah, but let's just say they did.
So that's another point. Like, Abe, if you're watching that, like, you now go. I think you have a lot of ideas in your head, and it like I was saying before, like he'll talk about.
Well, it should care. why?
Yeah, he said he didn't care. And so that starts a whole new line of thought. Well, you should care because of this and that and that and that and that and that. And then either you'll say something that'll bring yourself on a different tangent, or he'll say something that brings on a different tangent. And we're just not talking about the same thing. Shout out to Matthew King coming in the last minute. Yeah, we trying to figure it out. This is, are you in the Discord? You're not in Discord, right? But this is Gabriel Vipon in Discord. Yeah, we're all trying to figure it out.
Off. If you left your hat on, what would be the negative consequence of that?
Well, why would they have the law in the first place? Would be courtesy.
Let's just say they do.
I agree. One day his worldview might be cohesive and comprehensible. I genuinely believe there's some good ideas. I just don't really know what they are.
Well, you should care, and that's my point. Either it's 100% or it's nothing.
Yeah, but let's just say they did.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
What's the?
Well, yeah, this guy. If you ever see Gabriel Vipon, that is
the truth we're trying to establish here. There's no truth claim we're trying to establish.
Interaction, maybe courtesy.
This is what you're talking about.
Professional or personal. In a way, in a manner of a format that could exist in the actually ideal real world that we live in, that it can be that possible way of living, that courtesy can be drawn from the law's reflection of what is desired, intended.
I'm lost again, dude.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
So yeah, what's zero sum? I don't. There's a delay between when you send it and when it goes to YouTube, and then it goes to StreamYard, and I may have said things and other people have said things. Got to be referential to what you're talking about. So that was just part. That was just part one. Here, I'll drop the link in the chat here. I would very, 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 very much appreciate if you would share this video. Honestly, more than the stream. If you're only going to share one, you could do both. But if you're only going to share the stream, my stream, or the video we just watched, please share the video we just watched. I just put it in the chat. It's right there. The bigger it is, the more potential we have to do bigger and better stuff here on the channel. And of course, the bigger and better stuff we're doing on the channel, the bigger and better stuff we are doing it in Discord. Yeah, support your boy. Support your boy. Well, thank you so very, very much for hanging out, guys. I really do appreciate it. And of course, Morty does as well. If you are new here, please do me a huge, huge favor and subscribe. I am live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So make sure you ring the bell so you never miss a party. Once again, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.